Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Awakened His Sacred Gear in Childhood and Become the Strongest Part 3. Before we start, please go support Ryujin99 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 18. Start the cap. Issei was proud of his monster stamina. Not having talent, he had to compensate with effort. That's why he trained his body from the age of 10 when he awakened the boosted gear. The person in charge of training his body was Belzard. He put him through thousands of training sessions for 7 years. He still remembers when he forced him to jump off a mountain to gain resistance to pain. He is still traumatized by that unpleasant experience. His resistance helped him withstand the pressure of the balance breaker, and that is why he can use it without restrictions. If he had had normal training, he would not be able to withstand it and would have restrictions. The same was for the Juggernaut drive. He used his monster stamina with the help of his senpais and Drake to not lose control. Thanks to his resistance, I can withstand thousands of blows that could kill anyone. On his body are all those marks of battles. One in particular was engraved on his body and mind. The mark of that day in which the people he trusted betrayed him because of a closed oath, the day in which he lost the girl he wanted to be with for his entire life, and in which he activated for first time the Juggernaut drive. Now Hyoudou Issei was suffering, not on a physical level, but on a mental level. In front of him was one of his worst fears disguised as a beautiful woman with black hair, red eyes and a beautiful smile, a smile that could captivate anyone, but it only caused him fear. Why don't you understand? The black-haired woman spoke calmly. Issei was only silent so that the beautiful girl in front of him would not notice his nervous voice. You could have asked me for help like that time, but no, the man decides to do everything alone. He spoke again to Issei's silence. I waited almost 5 months for your call. I told you to let me know when you arrive in Kuo, but I haven't received a call since then. Issei's right hand was trembling because of the fear he felt in front of the girl who still didn't remove that smile. Sweet. Not only did you not get in touch, but you made a ruckus in the Underworld by getting into a compromise. You were in the middle of the Bible treaty, you fought with the hacker Yuku, and after a while I find out that my dear friend is being chased by the Brigade of Chaos, the Biblical Alliance and other beings that are not in my knowledge. There Issei was already praying for his life. Anything to say in your defense? The black-haired girl asked, losing her smile, and now she showed a serious look while a crimson-red aura surrounded her. Excuse me? Issei said it with a smile, trying to calm things down. Moron, Ed. Alert, carrier in danger, tactical retreat recommended. Issei made a poker face when he heard the voices in his head and decided to listen to Sia's voice. He quickly turned and tried to run. I say he tried because a crimson bird appeared in front of him. I surrender was the last thing Issei said, and everything turned into darkness. Carrier offline. Why are all the women around me so scary when they want to be? Issei asked himself as he sat with the male wearers inside the boosted gear. It was always like this. I think all of us men here suffer the terror of women, spoke one of the bearers, and the rest nodded in confirmation. That's because they're all idiots. Away from them were the former carriers playing cards. Sorry for being an idiot. Issei spoke without wanting to contradict the females. They hit you hard. Issei sighed when he heard Drake. He doesn't know how those simple blows affect him. If I can resist worse blows, how come those blows leave him out? What's with the door? A bear changed the subject when he saw how Issei was still thinking. Is it true? Sia, what is that door in the core of the boosted gear? Asked the brunette to a white sphere with golden rings that floated in the place. Odds. Everyone looked curious at the Sia representation. Specify, Elsha asked curiously. Behind the door are unknown possibilities. The possibilities were created by the need of the wearer. Everyone looked at Issei, who was surprised by that. So if I go through that door I can get something new? The brunette asked with some emotion. For now it is impossible. All the excitement Issei had went down because of what Sia said. And why is that? Elsha asked. Currently the possibilities would not work with the bearer. There are certain processes to complete to access it fully, but Issei can now enter the door. Why do you say it's impossible? Elsha asked again. When entering into the possibilities there is a high risk of rejection for this one. This type of phenomenon is not in my knowledge, but to fully access the possibilities, certain processes must be followed, and those are: Process number 1, bearer's need was fulfilled. Process N2 and 3, unknown and not fulfilled. As long as all these processes are completed, it will be possible to access the possibilities. The rest is not of my knowledge. Everyone was silent because of what Sia said. It seems that the new power Issei was looking for was not so easy. So what Belzard said was correct. Elsha was the one who broke the silence that had been created. Everything depends on Issei. Everyone looked at the aforementioned, who was very thoughtful. It will be better to think about this later. Himejima is impatient. Issei sighed. He didn't want to come back to be reprimanded by the girl. You finally wake up. Issei opened his eyes and could see the face of her friend. Why am I in this position? He asked curiously. Issei was with his head on the black-haired girl's muscles. "Consider it as compensation for hitting you," he spoke calmly. "The blow was not necessary if you were going to regret it later," said the brunette with a poker face as he stood up. "Besides, I know you like being in that position." Issei didn't say anything because of what the black-haired woman said. "Are you still thinking about her?" The brunette looked away. He didn't want to talk about it now. "Why did you want to see me, Suzaku?" "I don't think it's just to tell me all my mistakes to my face." Issei decided to get to the point of why he was called. "I'm worried about you," Himejima responded. "You shouldn't," Suzaku sighed upon hearing that. "But I want to do it. It's so hard for you to understand that there are people who care about you. Stop living in the past and move on once and for all." Suzaku hated that side of the chestnut. When something happens he takes all the blame and doesn't stop. "Blame yourself, even if they tell you it wasn't your fault. It's my life. You should worry about yours," answered the brunette. "You're a tremendous idiot," Suzaku said angrily. "Tell me something I don't know," Issei said calmly, making the girl sigh. "It's always the same with you, that's why you don't get a girlfriend." Issei looked at Himejima seriously. "Oops. I got carried away." She quickly apologized for her mistake. She still isn't over it. Suzaku sighed when he saw how Issei still didn't get over her girlfriend. She only spoke to Eve when she got involved in the call she had with the brunette and they didn't hit it off at all, more because Suzaku liked to bother and Eve was very jealous. "Why do you say things to make me angry?" Suzaku came out of her thoughts upon hearing Issei. "You know how I am," Himejima responded, making Issei sigh. "Well? Why did you want to see me?" he asked again. "As you already know, I found out about your actions during all this time, also about the attack you suffered, and I apologize for that." Suzaku spoke seriously and finally bowed, confusing the brunette. "Why are you apologizing?" Issei rarely saw this side of Suzaku. The last time she saw him like this was when they met for the first time. "I cannot force a god to apologize to you, but I do it in the name of Japan, so that you do not have resentment for a single being." Issei had understood. She was now herself talking to a member of one of the clans, which is why she was apologizing. "No need. I'm not spiteful enough to generalize, and stop talking like that. I feel uncomfortable when you talk like that." Suzaku smiled upon hearing the brunette's response and raised his head. That whole act was a protocol that had to be done. "And what will you do?" Himejima asked. "What do you mean?" Issei was confused by the sudden question. "Even if you deny it, your existence is special to the world. Celestial dragons have always been involved in historical events. Your actions can create many repercussions, that's why I ask you, what will you do?" Suzaku explained and asked. "Nothing that would make a lot of fuss. He planned to bother the brigade and something to entertain me with, the usual," the brunette replied carefree. "You say that, but they already found out what you did a few days ago." Suzaku said it with narrowed eyes. "And I was going to know that the Biblical Alliance was going to appear in that place. I only went with research intentions." The brunette defended himself before the black-haired girl's gaze. "You left a hole made of glass in the middle of the desert that was previously Egyptian territory and where humans passed through." Issei shrugged his shoulders when he heard Suzaku scream. "Why are you angry if it doesn't affect you at all?" Suzaku already had a twitch in his eye because of how carefree the brunette was. "It's not because it affects me or not, it's because you're irresponsible." Issei still looked at Himejima with a poker face. But no one was hurt and there was a barrier so that normal humans wouldn't notice. Suzaku let out a sigh. Dealing with the brunette was a struggle. It's impossible." "And what was in that place?" Himejima asked. "Nothing relevant that has to be written in history," the brunette responded, shrugging his shoulders. "It better be that. I don't want to find out later that it was something important," Himejima warned. "Should we tell him that that place was where the biblical god possibly was?" "Nah. You didn't know and neither did I. Who is going to discover that?" Unbeknownst to the brunette, in Grigori, a certain black-haired man sneezed. It was the same in heaven with a blonde who never stopped smiling. "Tobio told me about the deal that the Biblical Alliance proposed to you. What will you do with that issue?" Issei was thoughtful about Suzaku's new question. If they had proposed this to him before he sent his parents to another place he might have accepted, but now. "I may get money from this," said the brunette, drawing Suzaku's attention. "For what?" "You have a very high income thanks to the treasure that the former Secretary gave you, and the companies in which you made me invest generate more income." The black-haired woman was curious why the brunette wanted more money. "It's something personal." Issei did not want to give much information about his little secret, a secret that only Drake and his senpais knew. "What are you up to?" Suzaku's curiosity grew because of what the brunette was hiding from him. "It's a secret," said Issei, looking away at Suzaku's curious look. I saw your cousin." Issei decided to change the subject when he saw that the black-haired girl's curiosity was growing more. "Tobio told me. It seems that I accept her full inside, but not my uncle." Suzaku seems to have fallen into the trap of the brunette, who smiled internally. "I won't even tell my secret. Juju. This is happening because of you, Drake. He likes Let him have a hobby, I'd rather he entertain himself with that than with his perverted things. Issei sighed when he heard the internal fight. He thanked Dryag for giving him that hobby so that his perverted side did not come to light. He fears what could happen if someone else found out about his true self. I found out that you trained Ria's Gremory-san, why was that? The brunette came out of his thoughts upon hearing Suzaku's question. The Crimson Tomato gets along well with my parents. My mother forced me to train her. Suzaku looked curiously at the brunette. That he would let a demon get close to his parents was not something normal. And what about it? From what I heard lately, it became very strong, asked the black-haired woman. I adapted his body so that his power flows with better precision, increased his resistance and taught him a little hand-to-hand combat. The rest is pure talent of the Crimson Tomato. Issei spoke calmly before Suzaku's analytical gaze. You didn't just do it out of your mother's obligation, didn't you? Asked the black-haired woman. It was also because I wanted to test a theory. Himejima looked curiously at the brunette that she sighed to explain herself better. This is simply a theory, but lately I was thinking that the people who gathered around me have accelerated growth. Suzaku looked curious at the brunette at what she said. Why do you think that? Asked the black-haired woman. I think you already noticed, since you interacted with me, your growth and your power without the bird was very high. Suzaku thought about it for a moment and had to agree with her. Although she was strong, when she met the brunette her power got bigger. I also noticed it in Arthur and another friend. In Arthur it is not so noticeable because his power itself comes from his ability to manage the power of his weapon, but there is a difference since we met and now that he is with Vali, his growth may be an abnormal one. As for my friend, her power has become stronger since we met. She herself is surprised to see that she could still get stronger. Suzaku looked at Issei with a poker face, who was surprised by that look. What? Asked a curious brunette. Did you think of all that with your limited brain? She asked, curious at Issei's blank stare. Dryag and the others helped me. Sorry for not being intelligent like you. Suzaku looked at the brunette with pity while he was in a corner of the room making circles with his finger. Maybe it's all a theory. I think it's all a coincidence. Issei returned to Suzaku after dispersing her depression. But it makes some sense. Suzaku was thinking about what the brunette said earlier. She would have to investigate the archives of the previous bearers of the Celestials and the beings who were in contact with them. Don't think too much about it, it's just a theory of mine, and my senpai Issei downplayed the issue, but Suzaku would still investigate. And how are you going with your grandfather? Suzaku sighed when he heard the brunette's question. Things are tense with him. His thoughts are very closed and he doesn't understand that the clan needs a change. Issei had to agree with him. The Himejima clan was stagnating with the current leader. I plan to continue gaining followers so I have more influence and replace my grandfather, said Suzaku. He's trying not to get into trouble. I don't want to come save you. Issei said it, looking away, making Suzaku smile. Oh, Ice-chan is worried about this one, Isan. The black-haired girl approached the brunette to bother him. Don't be mistaken, I just don't want to come back here with problems. Issei moved away from the attempted hug of the black-haired girl who pouted but then smiled. Sundeer. Issei opened his eyes in shock upon hearing that. He became it Sundeer. You have your tsundere moments, but bipolar is the most normal. Don't forget about his attempt to seem like a cool and mysterious guy. Issei fell to his knees as he heard the voices in his head before Suzaku's doubtful look. Permission to add dramatic to the list of rare qualities. Ha ha ha, they bully me. The brunette was crying comically while the beings inside continued laughing, and Suzaku didn't know what to think of that scene. I told you to go your way and don't look for me. Riaz was remembering the meeting with Issei a week ago. She wanted to talk to the brunette that day, but the words and the feeling she conveyed prevented her from doing so. She also wanted to know who that woman was that accompanied Issei. She would be lying if she said that she wasn't jealous, but there was nothing she could do since she is not brown at all, and she doesn't like that. Riaz the aforementioned came out of her thoughts upon hearing her name called. What's wrong, Akeno? Riaz asked her queen who was next to her in the CIO waiting for the other members. Another one arrived. Riaz sighed upon hearing that. He doesn't understand that I won't let him get close to Asia. The Redeed was upset with a certain demon. 3 days ago, Diodora Astaroth had appeared before them with the intention of proposing to Asia Argento. According to hers, it's because he fell in love with her when she saved him from death when he was in church. Asia was surprised to see the demon that helped at that time again, and even more so to know that he was in love with her and wanted to take her to his. Riaz obviously refused, but Diodora kept insisting and sent gifts to Asia every day. That man gives me a very bad feeling, Akeno agreed with his king. Asia-chan was very brave to slap him when he got too close. I'm glad that my training is paying off, Ifufu. The Gremory queen laughed lightly when she remembered how Asia slapped Diodora for getting too close to her. I'm glad she's not so shy anymore, but that man doesn't give up so easily. Riaz made the gift that Diodora sent disappear with her power. If he gets close again I'll have to act. Ifufu. Riaz sweated as she saw how his queen laughed sadistically. You won't wait long. Both young women were surprised to see how Azazel was in the window. Suddenly stop appearing. Riaz had a twitch in his eye because of how carefree the fallen one was. Train your senses more and you will stop being surprised, said the fallen man, sitting on the couch, but not before handing a folder to Riaz. What is this? Riaz looked curiously at the folder that Azazel gave her. When she opened it he was surprised to see its contents. Your next opponent in the rating game, said the fallen one calmly. But weren't they late? Akeno asked, looking at the folder that Riaz handed her after reading it and was surprised by who his opponent was. Surziches and Serafal insisted that they continue showing their potential and the council decided to return to them, responded the fallen one. Then he is our next opponent. Yufif, it will be fun to try my new tricks, Akeno smiled while electricity appeared in his hand. Don't be confident. Lately his power has increased a lot. Both young women were surprised to hear the serious voice of the fallen man. He defeated Ageres very easily when his power before was more or less equal. This raised suspicions among the kings, but the council let it go, Azazel said again seriously. Idor Astareth. Beelzebub Sama's younger brother, said Riaz, looking at the folder again. Issei was surprised. An hour ago he had left the camp to go buy food, leaving Dahlia in the camp since she would buy the cheapest things or wild boar. When he returned he found the camp in flames and Dahlia fighting with demons with armor very familiar to him. He quickly threw down the bags of food and went to help the Valkyrie. Issei back the brunette reacted in time to dodge an attack that had every intention of killing him. It's been a while. Hyoudou flying with his 12 demon wings was a man with light brown hair, golden eyes, he looked 30 years old and was dressed in black armor with a dark green cape on his back. Shalba. Issei looked seriously at the demon in front of him. The Ulsh dragon balance break here. The Hyoudou's armor made its appearance and the demons fighting with Dahlia stopped when they felt the pressure that the brunette exerted. How dare you show your disgusting face here? Issei spoke in a calm voice with a bit of seriousness, making Shalba smile. I came to collect all the humiliations you put me through. Shalba began to release her own aura, slightly surprising Issei. His aura is not completely demonic. He has a snake of power. Issei narrowed his eyes upon hearing what Drake said. You abandoned your pride and accepted the power of office just like Kateria. And they call themselves the true demon kings. The current ones do not need those things to be strong. With that you demonstrate your weakness, Issei spoke gracefully, making Shalba. Silence. You could say that I recognize your power, and that is why I was forced to use this foul power of that foolish dragon. Shalba showed the infinity symbol in his palm. More respect for someone who can eliminate you just by thinking about it, Issei said gracefully. Let's stop talking. It's time for your annoying existence to end, and then I'll go against Volley. Shalba released all of his aura, he was sure that he could eliminate Issei. Do you think you can beat me? Issei increased his aura while being on par with Shalba. You are very wrong. You will pay for messing with me, declared the Hyoudou. Don't act strong, you insolent brat. Shalba manipulated his aura and threw it towards Issei, who neutralized the shot with his own dragon shoot, creating an explosion. Taking advantage of the cover that the explosion gave him, Issei launches himself head-on towards Shalba. He barely knows how to fight hand-to-hand, I'll take advantage of that to finish quickly. But that thought he goes through the explosion, meeting Shalba who had prepared a magic circle with which he receives Issei's blow. Don't underestimate me. From the same magic circle, Shalba shot his aura and Issei received it all, creating a new explosion. Understand the difference between us humans. Shalba was confident that that attack did something to him. Ebist, the difference is very clear to me. Issei came out of the smoke of the explosion with some screams in his armor, but these were being repaired. That's why I know I will win. Shalba, who was surprised to see Issei unharmed, could not dodge the blow that sent him to the ground. One rib broken and I guess the others must have cracked. How lucky you have that armor, just as Issei said, Shalba was on the ground holding her left side, where his armor was completely destroyed by a simple punch from Issei. How is it possible? All my attributes were increased by the power of that dirty dragon. How about this? Multiple magic circles appeared around Shalba and flies came out of them. Suffer the wrath of a true demon king. The flies around Shalba gathered a monstrous demonic aura and threw it at Issei, who was preparing to use his aura blast to counter the attack. Burst. Issei's accumulated power was forcefully expelled and Shalba's big shot was dispersed. So much trouble to then run away. At the end of the dispersion Issei saw that Shalba was gone. He is a coward. Next to Issei was Dahlia, who had defeated the demons. Kateria was the most trusting, Shalba was the most cowardly, and Crusory is an idiot. Issei undid his armor and looked at the camp, or what was left of it. You know them well, Dahlia sighed when she saw how her wild boar store had disappeared in the fire. It was fun to bother them, Issei said funnily. Now what? Dahlia asked. Well. Let's go somewhere else. This place is already very exposed, answered the brunette. Are you sure? Here she is. Dahlia knew that this place was important to Issei. Calm down. She will be fine. Issei decided to go save the things that were left before Dahlia's worried gaze. Secretary Shalba had returned to her hideout after fleeing the supposed fight with Issei. Damn dragons. They only serve to obey thinking beings. It is unheard of that they have such absurd power. He was furious. Hyoudou Issei and Volley Lucifer had only humiliated him again and again. Shalba the aforementioned was surprised to hear that voice, an empty and emotionless voice. Office in front of Shalba was a girl with dark hair, grey eyes and a gothic dress. You're weak. You can't beat Volley and Issei. Quit. Office spoke again, making Shalba angry. Next time I will win. Prepare another snake of power. Shalba was not going to give up. Useless. 0x0 is 0, your power cannot grow with a snake alone. You are weak. With those last words, Office disappeared. Damn dragons. Shalba let out a scream of fury at what the dragon said. She had to have more power to take revenge on the Celestials and destroy the false demon kings. Chapter 19. Start the cap. I had already told you that you will die if you continue like this. Who are you? In front of a serious Issei was the door that was in the boosted gear. He arrived at that place when she closed her eyes to sleep. You just need a push, just that to stop being so pathetic. Issei narrowed his eyes upon hearing that. What do you mean by a push? Will she have anything to do with her new power? DCH. Long. Upon hearing that, Issei was forcibly thrown out of the boosted gear. Issei got up from his bed because of a severe headache. What happened? Your mind was gone like that time. There is something behind the door that has a conscience. He took me to the door, said something about how I need a push, that I'm pathetic, and then he took me out of there by force. How strange. Sia said they were just formless possibilities. Well, he was wrong. There is something behind that door. I lost sleep. Issei let out a sigh and left his room. Yesterday, his camp was attacked by Shalba, Beelzebub and other demons. The camp was reduced to ashes, and he decided to go to another place with Dahlia. Now they were in a small town in Norway on Dahlia's recommendation. They rented a hotel temporarily until they find a better place away from normal humans in case they suffer another attack. Obviously they are both in separate rooms. And you sleep? Dahlia was in the kitchen drinking water, dressed in a simple tank top and sleeping shorts. That's right. He walked to the refrigerator, grabbed a carton of milk from it and took a seat at the table there. Do you want company? The Valkyrie sat in front of the brunette while he shrugged his shoulders. You didn't tell me how it went with your friend. Dahlia began the conversion. He just wanted to ask me some things about the act we did that time and apologize for the attack in Kuo, the brunette answered while he drank from the carton. I still find your fascination with milk funny. Issei looked with a poker face at the Valkyrie who was laughing lightly. It's something since I can remember. I feel calmer when I have a cup of milk, said the brunette calmly. Have you answered yet? There was a moment of silence because of the question Dahlia asked. Shalba's attack made me think that it would be fun to bother him. I already sent the letter with my conditions. If you want the information, I will not enter the alliance because it would be very annoying, the brunette responded. What kind of conditions? Dahlia was curious about the conditions that the brunette said. I asked for money for the information. I gave my word not to attack the alliance as long as it doesn't mess with me, and I also gave my vote in favor of the alliance, the brunette responded calmly. I understand everything except the money. You have to live 2 lives if you wanted to, why else? Asked the Valkyrie, making the brunette nervous. It's not bad to have a little more, she said, looking away, and Dahlia nodded in understanding. Thanks to Red, she's not very curious. Tomorrow I will try to make contact with an acquaintance of mine and see if I can return to Asgard. Issei nodded slowly. He knew that her friend would not stay forever. I hope you talk to them, said the brunette. I will do it. I can't continue running away. I have to take responsibility. Issei smiled upon hearing the woman's determination. I hope everything turns out well. Issei finished the carton of milk and got up to throw it away. Duadad, I'm going to bed. Good night. Dahlia yawned as she got up. Good night, answered the brunette. Issei was left thinking about the kitchen. He was wondering who it was that spoke to him and if it was related to the possibilities that Sia told him. He is also thinking about those processes that he has to complete and discover to obtain these possibilities. Don't think so much that you don't let us sleep. I'm sorry, don't worry. I know you feel insecure not having a card for the divine class, but you can overcome it. I hope so, Elsha. Go to sleep, Sundeer. Silence, dragon, with an eternal rival who doesn't even know how he started. Issei spoke with a tick in his eye because of what the dragon said. Don't mess with my memory, brat. My fight with Albion was, is and will be legendary. Sissy, whatever you say. Issei decided to go back to sleep. Nothing more than a good carton of milk to calm him down and make him sleepy. Then I accept. Surziches asked to calm Azazel. A few hours ago they had received the response letter from the Secretary, Hyoudou Issei. In a room in the Underworld were 2 of the 4 demon kings, Surziches and Seraphil. Next to them was Azazel, who was reading the letter and a hologram of Michael. Something like this. He says that he is willing to give information regarding the brigade for money. He also says that he will support the alliance with his vote of peace and that he will not cause us problems if we do not bother him, the fallen man responded, passing the letter to Suzaku, who began to read it. And I was hoping to have Siki-chan as an ally, Ravel spoke before the poker gaze of the rest. But it's good that he supports peace, it shows that he is not someone who is difficult to deal with, said Michael. I'm surprised how calm he is, the Celestials of this era are very calm, said Azazel, remembering the behavior of both boys. I can't say much about Hyoudou. But Issei-kun proves to be a good boy if you don't bother him, he is also very protective of his family, Suzaku spoke, remembering when he met and interacted with the brunette. And who will go for the information and delivery of money? Asks Ravel. Riaz and her entourage are ruled out. Sona is not on good terms with him, and Irina is not very cheerful after her last meeting, said Azazel, thinking about who to send. He has to be someone who is not hostile and not confrontational. Suzaku was also thoughtful. None of the leaders can go because he would attract unwanted attention. I have someone. Michael caught the rest's attention. Who? Asks the curious fallen man. Gabriel, he said simply before the blank faces of the rest. No one in power has to go, that would attract a lot of attention, and why are you so free to let Gabriel out? Azazel was curious about Michael's idea. If there is anyone who can confirm the support of the Securitate, it is her. It is also an opportunity for the young Securitate to know that heaven does not hate him for being a dragon bearer. Everyone was thoughtful when they heard the angel's reasons. TCH. Because she can go out and I can't, Ravel whispered with annoyance. Well. We still have time to decide who will go. Suzaku moved away from her friend a little when he saw that her true personality came to the surface by mentioning the angel. The meeting continued all night to decide who would go with the Securitate. Help me, God was the first thing Georg, a member of the Chaos Brigade and bearer of Longinus, heard when he appeared in a room. Diodora Asterith. Georg spoke with a slight feeling of disgust when he saw the demon having sexual relations with a woman dressed as a nun, and from what he saw, he was raping her. I hope you have a good reason to interrupt my fun, human. Diodora spoke with a serious voice, pushing the nun while she was dressing. The place is made, when you activate the dimension of the raiding game you will automatically be taken to that place. The artifact is also ready, I hope you do everything right. The human spoke seriously. Who do you take me as a human? I am related to the new demon king, do not underestimate me, Diodora said angrily. HMPH, just do your part was the last thing Georg said, and then disappeared into a haze. Damn humans. Diodora decided to continue with her fun, in a few days she would be able to corrupt Asia. Argento would finally have that innocent girl for him. No process update found yet. Issei sighed upon hearing Sia's response. A day had passed since he sent the letter to the Bible Alliance. Issei was in a pocket dimension created by Dahlia, who had gone out to contact an acquaintance of hers. She had asked Sia if there was a change in the terms for her chances, but there has not been a change. Do not be impatient. I need a new power to replace the Juggernaut. If a divine class being or someone who far exceeds my level attacks me again, I will be finished. Do not rush. Everything will come in its time. Issei sighed when he heard Elsha's voice. Although he did not like to use the Juggernaut drive because of the dangers it entails, it was his only card with extremely strong beings. It was also the difference he had with Vali. The hacker Yuku could use the Juggernaut, and that made him feel surpassed. I'm hungry. The brunette decided to stop thinking and left the dimension. You're back. He appeared in the hotel room, and there was Dahlia. How did it go? Issei asked. Good. They will come for me at night. It seems that Asgard is very busy, the Valkyrie responded, although her expression showed sadness. Why that face? Issei was a little worried by the woman's expression. You will be left alone. He said slowly. That. You know that I am never alone, there is Dryag and my senpais, you don't need to worry about me. Dahlia sighed upon hearing the brunette's response. Why don't you go with the swordsman? Dahlia tried to say, but Issei denied. He's dealing with his things with Vali, and I don't want to see my rival yet, Issei said calmly. You have to get more friends, spoke the Valkyrie. I have friends. There's Arthur, Faye, Suzaku, Tachmaru, you. Said Issei, feeling slightly at Dahlia's worried look. I'm talking about friends that you can always count on. Your friend Suzaku has her duties, the swordsman is with your rival, Tachmaru is with your parents. I don't know about that Faye, but she's not with you, and I won't always be with you, Dahlia. He said it seriously. Issei just remained silent. He didn't know how to answer his friend. Being alone is bad for you, Issei. Remember that your feelings are what drive your power and not loneliness, said Dahlia, and then she went to pack her things, leaving the brunette thoughtful. Is right, it's true. I'm happy that you continue to see us like this, but you need real people and not a chatty soul, along with fragments of past lives. Hey. No offense, Dreg. The Valkyrie is right, lately your power is equal to ours, just raw power, without feelings. At this step you will be alone and you will lose yourself. Issei was silent when he heard Dryag and Elsha. He didn't want to admit it, but he seriously felt alone. Is it decided? Suzaku asked. I thought you said that someone was needed who was neutral and not confrontational. I have nothing against her but. Said Azazel, remembering someone in particular. She wants to ask you for something personally. I heard her say that at the presentation party. I think she'll be fine. Suzaku spoke animatedly before the doubtful gaze of the rest. Very good. Tomorrow morning we will send her to where Siki-chan is. Serafal quickly accepted. Better that girl than the innocent angel. I keep saying it's not a good idea, said Azazel, thinking about the consequences. Calm down. They are both similar in an environment. Suzaku couldn't stop smiling at the idea of him. And that's it? Michael asked. Both of them are not honest with their feelings, answered the Redeed. Take good care of yourself and call off. And Dahlia was hugging Issei while behind her there was a magic transportation circle. It was time for the Valkyrie to return home. From what Issei knows, Dahlia contacted an acquaintance from the Valkyrie Academy. The acquaintance created a transportation circle to bring Dahlia back, taking advantage of the fact that Asgard was open again. Are you sure you don't want to come? Could you talk to Mr. Odin? Dahlia asked. Nah, I'll be trained and hanging around. Maybe we'll see each other again in the future, said the brunette calmly. Ah, take care of yourself. Dahlia sighed and walked away from the chestnut tree. Likewise, talk to them, Issei said goodbye, smiling. Goodbye. The circle glowed for a few moments and Dahlia disappeared. The room remained silent. Issei sighed and decided to go watch TV. There's nothing entertaining. He turned off the TV after changing channels. I'd better go to sleep. The brunette sighed and slowly went to sleep. It's wrong. Alsha said worriedly as she watched Issei sleep. He's a hardhead. No matter when we talk to her, she will still be afraid to interact. Everyone sighed when they heard Dreg. In those moments it bothered him that they were mere fragments of what they were. If only he could choose. It's not your fault, Dryag. He is proud to be the Sekiryu, said a bear. It's true, Dreg. Issei doesn't blame you for anything, said Alsha calmly. Everyone stared at the sleeping brunette. Dryag decided to pay attention to Issei's dreams. He didn't want the nightmares to bother him. Then it's not here. Cao Cao spoke, looking at the old camp located in Russia. It was to be expected, said a blonde girl calmly. I don't understand why we're looking for him, spoke a big man in a bad mood. Silence, Heracles. Remember that he was our leader, a white-haired man spoke seriously, angering the big man even more. Too bad that his sacred gear is changing him. He also counts our ways of thinking, said Cao Cao, smiling slightly. Bali is still moving. Georg appeared out of a fog. Well. After helping the fool Shalba we will go to Kyoto to plan. The Cao Cao spoke calmly while he moved the spear from him. Breaking report. The Biblical Alliance contacted Asgard. Everyone looked at Georg, who had a communication circle in his ear. Interesting. Let's go back. Hyoudou won't be so easy. Saying that, everyone present disappeared with Georg's mist. How quiet. Issei was having breakfast. He didn't know Dahlia made such a difference. There are visitors. In front of him a transportation circle appeared. The curious thing is that it is a circle with a logo well known to him. You. The transport circle stopped shining and revealed a young girl of about 15-16 years old, blonde hair tied in two drill-shaped pigtails, blue eyes, and dressed in an antique wine-colored dress. I am Ravel Phoenix. I will be the intermediary with you, Sekiryu. The now Ravel introduced herself before Issei's poker face. Why do I feel that my peace of mind will not last? Chapter 20. Start the cap. Don't you have anything better to do? Issei said it after sighing. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for orders, Ravel said calmly while she was sitting on the couch in front of the one Issei was sitting on. Do something interesting. I'm bored. The brunette sighed when he heard Dreg. He does not deny that he was also bored of being locked up in the hotel, but he did not want the blonde to follow him everywhere. He took his leader's orders very seriously. What do you want to do? I don't mind. Just do something fun. Have fun, slave. Issei's eye twitched when he heard the dragon occupy. She sighs again and gets up from the couch under Revel's watchful gaze. Are you going out? She asked curiously. Any problem? Said the brunette, preparing a modified magic circle for use. Let me get ready, said the blonde, also getting up. You don't need to follow me everywhere. I'll just go stretch my legs. Revel ignored him and walked towards him anyway. He does what he wants. Why don't you kick her out? Make yourself respected. He doesn't because her personality is very similar to her. Issei sighed for the fourth or fifth time, since she has been with a blonde for a week, and she does not deny that her personality is the same as Eve's, and that is why until now she does not get respect. Okay, to know how this pair is like this you have to go back a few days. Start flashback. Issei had a poker face after having heard the presentation of the intermediary in front of him. The intermediary introduced herself as Ravel Phoenix. Everything was fine up to that point. But everything changed when the fried chicken, as Issei mentally nicknamed her within seconds of hearing her name, began to speak to him in a very haughty and arrogant way. You should be grateful for taking the time to come to this place, said the Phoenix proudly. The 4 demon kings along with the respective leaders of the fallen and angel factions have asked me to be the intermediary between the Sekiryuite and the aforementioned. I am the great Ravel Phoenix, 4th daughter of the Phoenix House, and a high-class demon. Ravel spoke again when he received no response from the brunette. Hyoudou Issei, the brunette simply said, leaving the blonde blank. Well. Here is the payment for the services provided by her. Ravel left 4 briefcases on the table where the chestnut tree's breakfast was previously. And a letter from the leaders. The Phoenix, after leaving the last briefcase, took out a letter from her clothes and gave it to Issei. Issei took the letter and began to read it under Ravel's attentive gaze. It has to be a joke. Look on the bright side, you won't feel so alone. The brunette sighed and looked at the blonde who was looking at him very attentively and analytically. Do you know the content of this letter? I asked curiously. I don't know. They told me that I had to give him the money along with the letter, answered the blonde. Issei sighed and handed the letter to Ravel, who took her curiously. Read it, said the brunette before Ravel asked. Ravel began to read the letter under Issei's gaze, the Phoenix's expression changing as she progressed in reading. Why, Ravel shouted after reading the letter. I'm asking the same thing, Issei said calmly. For those who have not yet heard, the letter says that the intermediary, Ravel Phoenix, has to stay with the Sekiryuite at all times so as not to lose communication at any time. Even my parents accepted this, he shouted again when he saw his parents' signature at the end of the letter along with the leaders. But the carefree devils. Sending a defenseless girl with someone completely unknown, said the brunette, making a scary smile to scare the Phoenix, but he was surprised to see that she sighed and showed no reaction to his attempt to scare her. Nothing can be done if it was orders from above. Ravel spoke in a surrendered manner before Issei's blank stare. Aren't you afraid of being with someone completely unknown? I asked curiously. It bothers me that they didn't ask me, and as for you. No comments. Issei felt offended by the last thing. Well, I don't want fried chicken following me everywhere, Issei said calmly. That fried chicken. Ravel's gaze had gone away for a few moments upon hearing the nickname. And you are very dwarf. Although you are very developed for your age, or are you an old woman who looks younger? Issei put his gaze on the chest of the blonde who was still in his thoughts. She concentrates so much on his talk that I forget his performance. Silence, that is interesting. In Issei's head everyone was attentive to the interaction of those two. Who do you call rebellious Asian fried chicken? Issei remained static when he heard the nickname that the blonde told him when he left her thoughts. He said the forbidden word. The place remained silent after the scream that came from the blonde who was waiting for the reaction of the brunette who had his eyes covered with her bangs. Here it comes. How dare you? Issei said in a low voice, slightly scaring the blonde. I am not an oxygenated dwarf rebel, the chestnut tree shouted, leaving everyone in silence, even the beings inside the chestnut tree. Yes, you are an Asian and you do what you want, that makes you a rebel. Asian. Ravel defended himself against the brunette's attack. No, shouted the brunette. What? Yes, Ravel, and Issei's gaze shot lightning bolts, metaphorically speaking. This brings back memories. Likewise. The previous Sekiryuite along with Dry Eye continued to see how Issei and Ravel continued screaming. End of flashback. Since the arrival of the blonde, Issei has not stopped fighting with her. He did not deny everything about her, but he had fun fighting with the fried chicken. You stay here, chick. Issei's magic circle began to shine. I have orders to go with you everywhere. Ravel was about to enter the magic circle. I want privacy was the last thing Issei said and then disappeared before Ravel entered. Damn rebel. Ravel was going to follow the signature of the circle, but a communication circle appeared in his ear. Daughter, mom. The Phoenix was surprised to hear her mother, since she was with the brunette, she had not called her. Sorry for not calling you, but I've been very busy. That doesn't matter now, because I have to stay with the rebel Sekiryuite, Ravel asked quickly. It was a request from the leaders, and they promised that nothing bad would happen to you. It also helps you gain experience. Experience in what? In following a rebel. Ravel was running out of patience. Don't get angry. This will bring prestige to the clan. Imagine, the Phoenix family helped in the relations between the strongest Sekiryuite with the biblical alliance. Don't you think that's good? But why me? My brothers would be better at this, said the blonde, sitting on the couch. Their brothers are busy, and Razor is not in the best condition. Ravel sighing upon hearing that, he understands his first 2 brothers, but Razor. And you're not fooling me, you're interested in the Sekiryuutei. What are you saying? I don't care about that Asian at all, the Phoenix said quickly. What you say? Ravel swore his mother was laughing. It was impossible for her to be interested in that brunette if she admits that he caught her attention when she beat her brother with a glance, but nothing more than that. In 1 hour there will be the rating game between young Riaz and Diodora Astroth. Ravel snapped out of her thoughts upon hearing that. Haven't the rating game been suspended? Why does she suddenly do it again? She asked, curious. It is not something that I know, my daughter. I will send you the connection so you can see the rating game and learn more. Ravel thanked her mother for that. Now that she is free, she must train by watching other rating game, maybe later she will form her own ability. I have to cut it off, Razor got another attack. Try to get along with your crush. I'm not in love, the blonde shouted, but the call had already ended. Where has she gone? Ravel decided to prepare something to eat, she assumes that the chestnut will return shortly. It's not that I'm worried about that idiot eating, she shouted, but she stayed silent when she saw that no one was there. I'm going crazy. She sighed and went to the kitchen. What are you doing here? Asked a serious volley Lucifer, seeing how Hyoudou Issei was sitting next to Arthur eating ramen. I was bored and I wanted to do something, the brunette answered calmly as he finished the ramen before the blank stares of Arthur, Volley, Biku and a curious Kuroka. Who are you running away from? Arthur asked. Do I have to be running away to visit my friend? Issei said before the swordsman's poker look. How much trust do you have in me? Issei said it hurt. This is the famous Escalates Naya. Kuroka quickly approached Issei that she couldn't help but look at the black-haired woman's chest. I'm Kuroka Hellcat Naya, he introduced himself, smiling flirtatiously. Hyoudou Issei. Answered the brunette, hiding behind Arthur. Don't use me as a shield, Arthur pushed the brunette. I imagined it differently. Said Biku, watching as Issei tried to get away from Kuroka. Have found. Starting link. The sacred gear were present before the attentive gaze of everyone present. What is happening? Albion asked, alarmed by the sudden fact. Interesting. Greg was also surprised by the event, but he was calmer. Update found. Installing. And that voice? Volley asked curiously upon hearing the same voice that came from the boosted gear, but this time from his sacred gear. Yes? Asked the brunette. The Longinus, divine divating, went into update upon detecting us, he is using the innate connection between both Longinus to do so. Explain, Volley asked the brunette, who sighed to tell him what he discovered. Status updated. Current bearer. Volley Lucifer, the name they gave me is Ace. I am the assistant of the sacred gear, divine divating, I hope to be of help. They put effort into the name. Said Issei when listening to the Ace presentation, which was Sia in reverse. Let's see if I understood. The first wearer of the boosted gear was trained by the biblical god. He did something to the boosted gear that resulted in an artificial intelligence called Sia. So far I'm fine. Volley tried to understand what the brunette told him. The biblical god thing is a theory. But you're doing well, said Issei. And my sacred gear also has an artificial intelligence that, ironically, is called Ace, Volley said again, earning a nod from the brunette. And how would having Ace help me? Asked the albino, leaving Issei thinking. Well. Issei didn't know how to explain, but because he doesn't know exactly how he can help Sia. This is what happens when you don't ask as you should. Your wielder is kind of dumb. It's true. Issei didn't say anything when he heard the conversation between both dragons. Looks like I'll have to ask myself. Volley got up and walked away to find out more about Ace. Sorry for not being so smart. Issei was on his knees with an aura of depreciation. How interesting, said Biku, who had been silent next to Arthur and Kuroka since Issei and Volley were talking. I thought they would fight as soon as they looked like they did at the meeting, but they are very calm. Something very rare in Volley, Naya, Kuroka said surprised. They both know that this is not the time to fight, especially in Issei's situation, Arthur said calmly. You mean his lack of vitality? Biku asked and Arthur nodded. It works for me, Naya. Kuroka was thinking about the possibilities of helping the Sekiruyute. It won't be that easy for you, Arthur said calmly. Naya, do you doubt my methods? Said the Nico. It's not that, it's just that Issei is not someone easy to deal with when you want to get closer to him, replied Arthur. He seems easier to deal with than Volley. Biku still saw how the brunette was in the depressive aura of him away from them. That's just a tiny part of what he is, he acts like that because he must be having an internal struggle with his tenants, but if it weren't like that, he would be serious and would barely talk to them, Arthur responded, knowing how Issei would be if it weren't for he is distracted in his mental chatter. It's worth a try, Naya. Kuroka decided to approach Issei, who had come out of his depression and was now looking at nothing. I hope he can help you, said Arthur. You worry a lot, Arthur. Biku didn't think it would be that difficult to get close to the brunette. It may be that he hasn't gone through things like Volley or Kuroka, but his way of being makes him blame himself for everything that happens around him, said Arthur, watching as Kuroka made advances to the brunette, making him sigh. It already started badly. Biku looked curiously at the blonde and then looked at the others. Don't hit me, Issei was trying to push away Kuroka, who had put her arm between his chest. Come on, let me help you, said Kuroka, hugging the brunette's arm more. No sir, if I learned anything in my travels it is that no one asks you for anything for free, said the brunette, walking away from the black-haired girl. Come on, it's so that you get stronger and you like what I'll ask of you in return. Kuroka followed the brunette, who sighed. She doesn't deny that he would use his help, but she doesn't know what he will ask of her in return. At least listen to what he will ask of you. Issei sighed when he heard Elsha's voice. He turned and saw that Kuroka was looking at him with cute cat eyes. What do you want in exchange? The brunette asked, giving Kuroka a seductive smile. Have children with me, said the Nekomata calmly. We lost it. Issei had been left in a trance by what Kuroka had told him. You have to accept that the exchange is interesting. While the former male bearers and Dryag thought about the positivity of the offer, the women saw how the chestnut was thinking at full speed. Having children. That means hex. Hex means losing my virginity, and if I lose it, it would be a defeat and I don't lose, but it's a high offer. The bearers listened to the brunette's thoughts with sadness when they saw how Belzard's attitude had rubbed off on the brunette. Hello Nai, are you there? Kuroka moved her hand in front of the brunette's face, who blinked a couple of times until he sighed and put on a serious face. In the hypothetical case that I accept, what would you do to restore my vitality? The brunette asked, making the Nekomata smile seductively again. That's the best part, well you make me babies I will restore your vitality little by little, said the black-haired woman seductively. You accept it's an offer. Dryag shouted from the chestnut's mind, while the bearers supported the dragon and the females. Accept and you will go from being a virgin idiot to a lonely idiot. The woman surprisingly also agreed. You tempt me. But. I will answer you in a few days. Issei really wanted to say yes, but he still wasn't sure. Sissy, all the males inside the boosted gear along with some women, said that. I'll be waiting for your answer, Naya said, a smiling Kuroka as she returned to Biku and Arthur with a slight shake of her hips to further provoke the brunette, who repeated over and over again that he didn't lose. Let go of Asia. Rias was angry. Half an hour ago, she along with her nobility were transported to the area where the raiding game would be held between her and Diodora Astareth. They had appeared on a kind of platform that connected with something similar to a Roman or Egyptian temple. They waited there for a few minutes until an army of demons belonging to the Chaos Brigade led by Diodora, who had carelessly taken Asia hostage. Diodora left them at the hands of the army, but they were saved by the Norse god, Odin. They left the army in the hands of the god and quickly went to where Diodora was. Rias gave the order of zero containment against the enemy. She was very angry about everything that had happened and was going to unleash a lot of fury. They had arrived at the temple where they were greeted by Diodora's pieces, nothing that Rias did not clear by releasing her power. She was not going to do what Diodora wanted. They advanced and met Freed, the crazy priest who they believed had died a long time ago, nothing that Kiba could not control. They continued advancing until they reached a kind of room where Asia was tied to a machine, and below her was Diodora sitting on a throne smiling confidently. Welcome Rias Gremory and his nobility. Diodora spoke calmly, angering the newcomers even more. Traitor Rias was slowly raising her aura, influenced by her feelings of anger towards Diodora, who couldn't stop smiling. But Asia was crestfallen. Right now she was being a burden to her friends. Don't worry, Asia, everything will be over soon, said Rias, advancing slowly. Are you sure you want to look for it? Issei asked as he floated calmly in the sphere of protection that Arthur created to avoid being devoured by the dimensional gap. I still don't know why you're still here. Vali looked around looking for her target. I have nothing better to do, answered the brunette. Here Biku, who was floating next to Issei, offered the brunette some Cheetos. Thank you. Issei accepted the monkey's offer and took some Cheetos. And that? Arthur saw something floating away from them. And what is she doing here? Issei saw that Asia Argento was floating in the gap. She's unconscious. Arthur took the unconscious blonde's pulse. I think I heard about something that would happen in the underworld. Biku said, and everyone, except Asia, looked at him curiously. It might be interesting. Let's go to the underworld, said Vali, surprising Arthur and Biku. And that? Asked the monkey out of sudden interest. Curiosity. Said Vali without looking at them. I hope Hyoudou stays in that place. Vali wanted to get rid of his rival. The demonic part came out. It feels weird having him here. We leave him in the underworld when he gets distracted. You were diabolical, Vali. Chapter 21. Start the cap. Shalba Beelzebub was not having a good time. He had planned everything, although he did not like to accept the help of those humans and that Lucifuge, but the end justified the means. The plan was simple, kill the heir of Glaciolabolas who went on a whim to provoke Falbium, tempt the fool Diodora Astareth, sabotage the raiding game of the sister of the false demon king, and then kill her, then use the sacred gear of the nun to assassinate the false demon kings, along with the other leaders. Everything was perfect. But that fool Diodora ruined everything. The idiot attacked Rias Gremory and ended up disintegrated with a simple touch from the Redeed. He was surprised by the power that the Gremory brat had. That made him angry, but he still had the machine that human gave him. He could still follow the plan. Since the nun was in the machine, she could still accomplish her goal. Or so she thought. Rias Gremory was never expected to be able to destroy the machine made of a Longinus. That was absurd. Out of frustration, he transported the nun to the dimensional gap so that she would be devoured to death there, and that was his biggest mistake. He had provoked the uncontrollable fury of Rias Gremory, who loved his nobility like family. It was just a moment. In a moment he destroyed the entire place they were in. What kind of monster are you, Rias Gremory? Shalba said seriously as she saw how the Redeed was enveloped in the power of destruction. You're a damn coward. You mess with us when you can't even touch my brother. Ria's words made Shalba angry. You will pay for killing Asia. I will make you beg to kill you. Riaz quickly went to where Shalba was. The Beelzebub dodged Riaz's attack with some difficulty. That annoying power. The armor on his right arm and half of his cloak had disappeared from simple contact with Riaz's aura. Vale and Gremory. Two of the three houses I hate the most. Shalba shot her aura towards Riaz, who used a circle of protection to cover herself. Shalba's attack ended and Riaz's shield held. Riaz shot her aura of destruction towards Shalba, who was dodging it or protected with her own aura. Understand your place, brat. Shalba got tired of dodging and made several magic circles appear. Projectiles of Shalba's aura were fired from the circles. Riaz away from Riaz and Shalba was the nobility of the former. They had walked away when they saw the fury that enveloped the retreat. The one who had screamed when she saw how she received the attack was Akeno, who had an unconscious Zenovia in her arms. We have to help her. Kibayudo was preparing to go to the aid of the king of her. What a commotion there is here. The Gremory nobility turned around when they heard a new voice, and what they found was Hyoudou Issei, Volley Lucifer and two people behind them coming out of a dimensional crack. Asia Akeno shouted in surprise when she saw the aforementioned in the arms of a blonde with glasses. We found her in the dimensional gap by chance. She alone is unconscious. Hyoudou received the unconscious blonde. Shalba Beelzebub. Volley saw the fight between Shalba and Riaz, who was injured but nothing serious. What are the two celestials doing together? Gasper Vladi asked in a whisper. Crimson has a difficult time. Said Issei, who was attentively watching the fight of both demons. Her beloved pride of her was gone when she accepted the snake and when she used that device. Said Volley watching as Shalba shot bursts of light causing injuries to Riaz. Please. Help. But you Kaneko Toju surprisingly asked Issei for help. Issei looked at the white-haired girl and then looked at Riaz again. Receive my light. A large magical circle appeared beneath a tired Riaz. A large pillar emerged from the circle that consumed Riaz, scaring the Gremory nobility. I'm still weak. Riaz closed her eyes waiting for him to finish. Yulsh dragon balance break here. Riaz opened her eyes in surprise when she felt that someone was holding her in his arms. You still lack training. Take it. The one who had her in her arms was Issei in her armor that protected her from the light attack. Issei. Like. Riaz didn't know what to say or do, although she was excited to be so close to the brunette. Shalba looked furious at Issei, who made her helmet disappear and smiled amusingly at the demon. Yes, I answered the brunette, raising his right hand in greeting, still holding Riaz with his left arm. I suppose you know about my gift ability. Riaz at first did not understand what the brunette said until he began to increase his power. Prepare an attack. This will be the last and first time I help you eliminate someone. Riaz nodded and raised his hand, in which the power of destruction began to accumulate. The transfer. The increased power was transferred to Riaz and caused his attack to become much larger. Don't think I'll stand still. Shalba made her flies appear, and with them all his aura. I'm sorry Shalba, this will be your last day of life. Issei gave the signal to Riaz, and she fired the big attack. Shalba also fired hers. Both attacks collided and began the fight for supremacy. Idiot. Destruction is stronger than you. Saying that, Riaz's attack won the fight and completely consumed Shalba. Damn celestials. Damn fakes was the last thing that was heard from Shalba, and then she left a crater where he was. Incredible. I wouldn't even know if she would survive. That Issei saw the result of the attack before Riaz's watchful gaze. Why did you come? The Redid asked timidly. It was pure coincidence. There is someone you have to see. Issei replied calmly as she went with the rest. But you. The Gremory nobility quickly went to their king when they landed. I'm fine. Asia. Riaz was surprised to see the nun being hugged by a recently awakened and crying Zenovia. Hyoudou Issei. The aforementioned turned to Volley and saw that he was observing the sky where a large dimensional gap had appeared. The big guy is present. Issei walked until he was next to Volley, and they both saw how a large red dragon of about 100 meters and two pairs of wings floated in the sky. Big red in the middle of Issei and Volley. A black-haired girl appeared. Office. You are here too. Issei and Volley looked at the girl next to them. Someday I will demand silence. I will visit you in a while. Issei saying that, Office disappeared without a trace. Hyoudou Issei. The brunette looked at Volley, who raised his hand and pointed at Great Red. My goal is to defeat the Red Dragon God Emperor. But for that I have to defeat you first, said Volley, smiling defiantly. I will be the first to defeat the older Red. I won't leave it so easy for you, said Issei, smiling in the same way. That interaction did not go unnoticed by those present, nor by the great dragon, who saw them for a few seconds and then continued on his way. I'll be leaving. Hyoudou Issei. I hope I don't see you too soon. Volley walked away, followed by Arthur and Biku. Just tell me, Issei, it's uncomfortable being called by my full name all the time, said the brunette calmly. See you, Issei. I already gave my intentions to fight the sacred demonic sword. Arthur said goodbye to Issei, as did Biku, who only waved at him. It will be entertaining to see who gets to the fight with Big Red first. The new Red Dragon God Emperor. Doesn't sound bad. I'm glad you have a good goal, but for now focus on your growth. Dry Ag and Issei sighed upon hearing Elsha. Issei Sama. Issei narrowed his eyes when he heard a voice that made him mad. "What are you doing here, chick? And since when do you use Sama?" The brunette turned and flying with his wings of fire came Ravel with an angry face. "She left me at the hotel for 3 hours. She said she was just going to stretch her legs and then I found out she's here." The phoenix landed in front of the sighing brunette. "I don't owe any explanation to a laundry," said Issei, angering Ravel. "I'm not cool, I just follow the orders of my superiors," Phoenix defended herself. "You didn't answer why the Sama," said the brunette. "I was bored at the hotel and decided to study Asian customs." "It's not that I care about your customs, it just caught my attention, nothing more," answered the phoenix, looking away. "Sundeer," Issei laughed internally as he heard the beings inside her. "Do you know each other?" Riaz approached a pair of tsundeers upon seeing her interaction. "Confidential," said Ravel seriously. "Excuse me?" Riaz was confused by what was said. "It's time to go, Issei Sama." The phoenix ignored Riaz and created a magic circle under her and Issei. "It's true. We have to leave before someone annoying comes," Issei agreed with the blonde who smiled triumphantly at Riaz who was looking at her in an annoying way. "Keep getting stronger." "Take it," were Issei's last words and then he disappeared with the phoenix. Another rival. Riaz forgot about her injuries and began to raise her aura in the form of anger. "Hey, what did I miss?" Flying came Arena Shidu, who saw how the Gremlin nobility were far away from Riaz who was shooting his aura everywhere. "Well, he said some things about making fried chicken or something like that." "Everything went well," said Azazel, watching as the Gremlin nobility plus Arena tried to calm Riaz down, but everything changed when Arena found out what happened and joined Riaz's anger. "I was going to intervene, but it was good that Issei-kun came," Suzaku said smiling. "But for them both to be together." That was a surprise. Azazel was thinking about the possibilities of Issei and Vali being together. "I guess you understood what Offa said," the fallen man sighed upon hearing that. The two celestials already had previous contact with Office and now they were in the presence of Great Red. "This generation surprises me more and more." Suzaku agreed with what the fallen man said. Odin agreed to meet with the Japanese gods. "It will be in a few weeks," said the Redeed. "It was to be expected, the old man doesn't like conflict," responded the fallen man. "Well. I have to get back to the paperwork," said Suzaku tiredly. "I'll go with the boys to stop a conflict between a jealous demon and an angel." Suzaku laughed when he heard that. "How dare she leave me alone?" Issei sighed as he continued to hear Ravel's complaints. They had returned to the hotel in Norway and Ravel was still complaining to him about why he didn't take her to his hotel. "Listen, Ravel. I barely know you and you barely know me. It's stupid for you to ask me to take you with me or have to explain to you what I do in my life. I understand that you want to follow the orders of your leaders, but you have to understand that I have my privacy and my affairs. It is enough that I let you be here," Issei said seriously, leaving Ravel silent. "I understand. I'm sorry to be a bother to you, I'll go to my room," Ravel said quickly as he went to his room. "You screwed up and ugly." Issei fell silent as he heard the voices in his head. She didn't do anything wrong, she just made the blonde understand that she can't control him and follow him everywhere. Be a little considerate. The girl is trying hard to do her job, she even studied Japanese customs. Issei sighed and went to the kitchen. She was hungry, that ramen she stole from Arthur didn't fill her up. When she got to the kitchen she found 2 plates of food. "It's cold." Issei tried the food, it was simple noodles with cheese. "I hope you apologize, the girl didn't eat to wait for you. Now I'm the bad guy." "You always are." She grabbed both plates and microwaved them, then went to Revel's room and knocked on the door. "Hey chick. I'm sorry for saying such harsh things, but you have to understand that we barely know each other. I'm not very good at first relationships, but if you want we can try," said Issei from the door. "I'm sorry too. I should have respected your privacy and not been so controlling." Revel slowly left his room. "I am Hyoudou Issei, current Secretary, and I am willing to meet you," said the brunette, extending his hand. "I am Revel Phoenix, 4th daughter of the Phoenix House, and I am also willing to meet you." Revel accepted the brunette's handshake. "I hope you're grateful that I let you meet me," said the brunette, undoing the squeeze. "HMPH, you should kneel before me and thank me for allowing you to meet me." Revel said it, looking away while she crossed her arms. "Sundeers, we are not Sundeers," the duo shouted at what the dragon said, who was laughing so hard. Let's go eat." Revel said, Issei making the blonde smile. Of course Issei Sama, so both young people left together. An order of candy bore Dahlia hurried the preparation of her special dish. Since she returned to Asgard a few weeks ago she had been looking for a new job and found one as a cook in a bar near the Valkyrie school. "The order will be in a moment." Dahlia was happy with her new job, finally she was dedicating herself to something that she really liked. Dahlia H, there is someone looking for you." Valkyrie's companion entered the kitchen and spoke nervously. "Can't wait. I'm cooking right now," Dahlia replied without turning around. "It's important," the colleague insisted. "By the father of everything, don't you see that I'm busy?" Dahlia didn't finish complaining because in front of her was an old man with a long white beard just like her hair and dressed in a simple blue tunic with touches of white and gold. Lord Odin. Dahlia quickly knelt down as she had the god king of Asgard in front of her. Don't worry. I just came to try the delicacies of this place and I wanted to congratulate the chef, said Odin calmly. I am very flattered, sir. Dahlia spoke with respect, making Odin sigh. Can I ask for a little of your time for a private chat? Odin asked. Wait a moment and I'll take care of it, can that be? Dahlia responded, seeing that her dishes were accumulating. Of course. Continue with your responsibilities. Odin nodded and left the kitchen. What would Lord Odin want with me? Has he found out about my relationship with Hyoudou Issei? Dahlia thought about the possibilities of why the God King would look for her, but in that place where almost no god came, but she decided to finish her business quickly to find out why she was looking for her. Why her? Azazel sighed at the complaint they were giving him. A few days had passed since the incident in the Underworld occurred. Things are still moving, but nothing that Suzaku and the others can fix. Why do you keep complaining to me? I already told you that it was your brother who decided for Ravel to go with the Hyoudou. The fallen man responded to Ria's continued question. But I was the best one to talk to him and not her who doesn't even know him. Riaz was acting out of Phoenix's jealousy of him. Suzaku must have chosen her because Ravel and the Hyoudou did not know each other and he wanted Issei to interact more with the young demons. Or so I want to believe. Sometimes I don't know what your brother thinks, said the fallen one calmly. Muo, I'm Issei-kun's friend because that fried chicken had to go with him. Irina was also complaining about not having been chosen. Your wings. Zenobia pointed out that Irina's white wings were flickering between black and white, alarming the brunette. Irina-senpai, it's wrong to insult others, although the fried chicken thing is true, Kaneko spoke while he ate her chocolates. I still don't understand what they saw in the Hyoudou. All men are equally stupid, Akeno said, earning a complaint from Azazel, but receiving no attention. It's so cute. Riaz changed into his dreamy mode when he heard Akeno. He's very protective. Irina also began to fantasize. And he is surrounded by beautiful women, Azazel said that, smiling, earning angry looks from Riaz and Irina. I think they are her friends. Asia said timidly. It's better not to get involved in that. Asia-san. Hyoudou preferred not to get involved in the talk, just like Gasper, who was hiding in her box. But you looked very happy being hugged by the Hyoudou, said Zenobia, and the aforementioned fantasized again before Irina's annoyed look. Very good. Take advantage of this quiet time to rest and train. Very annoying things are coming, said Azazel, drawing everyone's attention. Annoying things? Gasper asked, poking his head out. That's right. For now I can't tell you anything, but you will be involved. I apologize in advance, said the fallen man as he left the room, leaving everyone in his thoughts. They were sure of one thing: what was coming would test everything in them. Chapter 22. Start the cap. His breasts are quite developed for his age. Issei discreetly saw the chestiness of the blonde who was ordering her food. Little by little the real Issei comes out. I don't know whether to be happy that he is opening up or worry about how perverted he is. Let it be. He just hoped that fetish he has doesn't make us too embarrassed. Issei listened to the voices inside her with a poker face while she took her eyes off the blonde's breasts. It had already been a few weeks since the Underworld incident occurred. At that time he concentrated on his training and began to train the blonde phoenix since Ravel was going to stay with him and, knowing that at any moment he would be attacked by something or someone, he decided to train the blonde so that she could defend herself or, in the worst case, flee. Ravel could barely endure the brunette's training. She was not one to fight on the front line, but the brunette forced her to train her physique to learn a little hand-to-hand combat because of her doubts. Issei took advantage of the fact that the blonde was natural with fire and decided to do something similar like she did with Riaz. What will we do now, Issei-sama? The brunette came out of his thoughts when he saw how Ravel took a seat in front of him and left a tray with a coffee for him and tea for her, this accompanied with a toast for the brunette and a cake. For Ravel. Both young people were having breakfast in the hotel restaurant. I was planning to continue training in this place for a while. But I started to feel annoying presences, said the brunette, discreetly watching how at a table far from them was a young man who looked away from him when he saw how the brunette had discovered him. Human? Ravel asks, also looking discreetly at the young man. That's right, and I know who is behind this, he responded, taking a bite of his toast. May I know? I asked timidly. I'll tell you in the room, there are ears everywhere here, said the brunette calmly. The young people enjoyed breakfast while talking about things in their lives, but on Ravel's side, he couldn't stop bragging about his prestigious family. So that Cao is the one who is giving the orders to keep him under surveillance, said the blonde after listening to the brunette. They had already returned to her apartment. Issei took the opportunity to inform Ravel a little more. She told him that his guards were humans belonging to the brigade, specifically one of its factions made up of only humans with sacred gear or special abilities. They are fools, they think they can demonstrate human limits with terrorist attacks, said the brunette lying on the couch. And you were a member of that faction? The demon asked curiously. At first there were only two of us. He was a friend of mine that I found in London, and at that time I was not a member of the brigade, I just wanted to become strong and travel the world," answered the brunette looking at the ceiling of nostalgic way. "On the way we found what would be our friend and my. Well, someone special." Ravel was curious, he knew that the brunette omitted something, but decided to let it pass. "Ironically we joined the brigade because that third person was a member of another faction, which was the rebel magician faction. He took us to his leader and told us about his objective, we both thought it was interesting, my friend he joined to test himself and me on a whim." Issei continued telling his story under Ravel's watchful eye. "My friend and I were on our own, we didn't care about the other factions, eventually the girl from the wizard faction joined and we were called the infant Securitate team." Issei paused for a while. Laughter I heard from the blonde. "They had to be very loyal not to leak that you're the Securitate to the entire world," commented the blonde. "The infamous thing suited me well. Let's say that he was very feared in the brigade." Issei remembered his moments in the brigade and how he made himself respected by the rest. "Although I would have put the rebel Securitate team on them," Ravel said in a funny way. Someone said something similar. Issei remembered how Eve said almost the same thing that Ravel said. "For half a year it was just the three of us until Office told us about two possible members for the team. They were two humans with high-class sacred gear, one called Cao Cao and the other called Georg." Issei continued with his story. "I agreed to let them join because their skills caught my attention. After the year was up, 3 more joined on the recommendation of Cao Cao. A young swordswoman descended from Joan of Arc and a walking muscle named Heracles also joined. Siegfried, a renegade from the church who carried demonic swords." Ravel paid close attention to the names. "When I realized we were a group of more than 50 members. Then some internal problems happened, the team of the infamous Securitate began to be called the faction of heroes, who have nothing of heroes." Time passed, and here you have the chestnut finished telling. The Phoenix knew that Issei didn't tell her everything, he still didn't trust her completely. "How interesting," Ravel said calmly. "I would say crazy. I went through a lot of things in 3 simple years, and now in a few months many crazier things happened to me." Issei remembered everything that happened since he arrived in Kuo, especially to a red-haired Otaku. Ria sneezed as she watched the beast race. "Are you okay, Ria-san?" Kiyame asked. "Yes, someone must be talking about me," answered the Redhead, watching the race again. "There are no changes to the processes." Issei sighed upon hearing that. The brunette was in his room, night had already fallen and a few moments ago he had finished eating with Revel. He had asked Sia if there was anything new regarding his new power but nothing. "You know it won't be that easy, we're talking about a new power that will replace the Juggernaut drive." "I know. But if I don't have something that equals or surpasses the Juggernaut, I won't be able to do anything against strong beings. Everything comes at its time. For now, focus on Balance Breaker and your own power, lately it is the same as what we had in our lives." "And what's wrong with that?" Issei was surprised by what Elsha said. "Remember that the boosted gear works best with feelings and a lot of determination, currently you are only using raw power, it does not have the feeling that it had before, it is just empty power." The change occurred from that day. "We didn't want to tell you anything until you had overcome it." Issei remained silent, he had not realized his situation, he knows that it changed since Eve died, but he did not believe that he would be affected in the area of his power. Your control and level are the same, only the power is not the same. You don't have the right motivation to move forward. If you continue like this, you won't be able to improve yourself." "Motivation," the brunette said into the air while he thought about his current goal. "Annoy the brigade and raise his power until you defeat Big Red. If possible, defeat him." He decided to sleep, tomorrow he would think better of it. He doesn't know how long he slept, but he opened his eyes when he detected a new presence in the hotel. He quickly got up and went to the exit of his room. He slowly opens the door and looks down the hallway. In front of his door was Revel's room. Due to the lack of light around the edges of the door, he assumed that the blonde was sleeping. In the living room. Paying attention to Drake, he heads to the room slowly and silently. The lights in the living room were on and there was someone on the couch. "Who are you?" the brunette asked seriously. Sitting in front of him in a relaxed manner was a young-looking woman with long black hair, light blue eyes, very beautiful and dressed in a white and black Japanese priestess outfit. "I am not your enemy, Securitate," spoke the beautiful woman. "The goddess." Issei prepared his entire body and senses upon hearing Drake. "If you don't be nervous, I won't hurt them," said the woman. "VCH.SHE knows about Revel. Let me introduce myself." The woman stood up slowly before the serious gaze of the brunette. "I am Isanami, second in command of the Shinto faction." The beautiful woman introduced herself. "Your luck in attracting legendary beings never ceases to amaze me." The brunette swallowed saliva from the nerves he had at having a primordial being in front of him. "Now I understand." Issei was paralyzed when he had face to face with the goddess. She put her hand on the cheek of the brunette who was paralyzed. "I thought my daughter was just doing a whim, but now that I see you, I understand why she is after you. Izanami began to walk around the chestnut tree, analyzing him. I don't know what she means, Issei spoke, swallowing all her nervousness so as not to show weakness, something that made the goddess smile. Your soul is special, a soul that is destined to go against the rules of the world itself. Someone who can be very dangerous. Izanami stopped in front of the brunette while he placed his hand on her chest. Tell me. Many beings would have accepted my daughter's offer without thinking, but not you. Can you give me the reason for that response? She asked, removing her hand from the chestnut's chest. I will not bow my head to anyone, it does not matter if she is a god or goddess, I am free, and I choose what I want, the brunette answered seriously. Is that so? From what I see and feel, you are a young man with a very big weight on your shoulders, you are in conflict with yourself, and you don't know what to do, Izanami said calmly. Issei just remained silent, something in him told him that what the goddess said was very accurate. Many say that the purest beings are angels and children, said the woman, confusing the brunette. But from angels came demons and children are stained by the sins of this world, Izanami continued talking while she closed her eyes. For a long time I believed that in this world there would be no place for pure beings, but I was wrong. Izanami opened her eyes looking with a smile at the brunette who still didn't know what she was talking about. There are beings that are the purest in this world, beings with unimaginable powers that many envy. Do you know who I'm talking about? She asked calmly. Dragons, Issei responded, making the goddess smile. Correct. Dragons, beings born from the same world, of wild, free spirits and thinking beings that can surpass anyone when they set their minds to it. In you lies one of those beings, the goddess took Issei's left hand. I can feel it. This power is corrupting you, it is changing you, it changes your body, but not your soul. The soul is the only thing that cannot change, that is your own choice, but first you have to accept the chaos that is within you. Your being, said the goddess again as she released the brunette's hand. Good and evil, chaos and order, light and darkness, one cannot live without the other. I would ask you if you already know your darkness, but you already know it very well. Issei did not know where the goddess was going, until now he has understood almost nothing. I already saw the reason for my daughter's fanatical interest. I'm leaving Sekirute. Izanami walked away from the brunette while she began to shine. Wait a minute, I didn't understand anything at all. Issei needed an explanation for the small act that the goddess did. When you accept your darkness as you should, you will find your answers, although not everything has one. Good luck on your path, Sekirute. My daughter will stop bothering you until you have your answers. You have my word. With that said, Izanami disappeared from the place. What's wrong with my luck? I must have been cursed by someone or something, she said, sighing the brunette as she sat on the couch. You have the devil's luck. Elsha and the others had paid attention to the entire interaction between Issei and the goddess. Did anyone understand something? I followed the talk at first, but then I got lost. I understood, but I'll leave it to you to think about. Traitor lizard. The brunette murmured as he returned to his room, still with the goddess's words in her mind. I will go in a few days, I am interested in your culture. Are you sure? You're not getting too far ahead? Azazel asked. There is a troublesome brat who does not accept my decisions, I plan to advance the plans, so that he does not bother. The fallen man sighed at what Odin said, apparently he would have to advance things on his side. Troublesome brat, do you mean one of your sons? This time he asked seriously. That's right, Loki is not happy with my decisions, he disappeared a few days ago, I'm afraid he will do something that will cause problems. I'll send one of mine to escort you. What about the others, won't there be problems? The fallen man said and asked. Many accepted with interest, some were interested in the raiding game, others didn't care at all. Then the most worrying thing is Loki. I'll give the warning to Surziches and Michael, see you old man. Azazel ended the call and sighed again. I already want to retire. With that said, he left to give the notice to the other leaders. I can't take it anymore. Asia Argento fell to the ground tired. It was just a warm-up. Riaz calmly looked at his bishop. Since the incident in the underworld, he decided to focus on training the blonde harder, he didn't want it to happen again. Asia-chan is trying very hard. Akeno approached them both, while he brought some bottles of water. But you is a tyrant when it comes to training. Commented Gasper hiding behind Hyoudou, who smiled nervously. Butchu doesn't want Asia-san to be in danger like in the underworld, although the training Butchu is giving her is brutal. Said Hyoudou calmly. Come on Asia, show your determination. Zenovia supported and exhausted Asia. You can do it. Asia-senpai. Kaneko also supported the blonde while he ate a chocolate. I think it's good that they are training. A new voice was heard in the training field, it was Azazel who was slowly approaching the young people. Azazel-sensei. The young people turned to see the fallen man who looked serious. In the evening an important guest will come, as representatives of the territory have to be present, the meeting will be at the Gremory residence, the fallen one warned the young people. I understand about being present, but why here? Riaz asked curiously. In order not to attract so much attention and the academy is out of the question, Sona refused, the fallen man responded while he shrugged his shoulders. Ria sighed, Sona had sold her again. Who will be the VIP? Hyoudou asked curiously. They will know in the night. With that said, the fallen man retired. Ah, you heard it, let's finish the training and then prepare things for the night, Riaz ordered as he sighed. It was already night in the city of Kuo. In the Gremory residence there were all the Gremory nobility, Citri and Arena. Apparently everyone is here. The young people watched as Azazel entered the room. The VIP is already on the way, I want you to behave and listen well before giving your opinion on anything, warned the fallen man. Because of your behavior, I think the VIP is very important, said Sona, adjusting her glasses. That's right, this meeting is important for the alliance, responded the fallen man. At that moment the knock was heard at the door of the residence. Azazel went to open the door while the young people stayed in the room, some calm and others a little nervous. What a nice place, I know I was expecting something as it is a place where only the beautiful ladies live. Azazel came through the door of the room accompanied by 4 people, 2 men and 2 women. Hello young people, I am Odin, the god king of Asgard, an old man with a long beard, dressed casually and had a hat, introduced himself. It's a pleasure to meet you Odin-sama, the young people agreed. What educated young people, commented Odin. The Keno, said a rather large man, dressed in a black suit, with black hair and violet eyes. The aforementioned changed his expression to one of anger and discomfort that made the man lower his head slightly. Arena shouted, drawing everyone's attention. The brunette with pigtails was pointing at one of Odin's companions. You were the one who was with Issei-kun, said the angel, setting off Ria's alarms, who got a better look at the woman accompanying Odin. My name is Dahlia, escort of Mr. Odin, she introduced herself, bowing slightly. This surprised the Gremory nobility. The woman who accompanied Issei the day they met in that desert was an escort of the god Odin. She is my new temporary escort, Odin added calmly. You are the famous companion of the Sekirute, said Azazel looking at Dahlia, who did not leave her serious expression. She is my first escort, Roswis, the spinster Valkyrie. Odin introduced his other companion who began to cry because of the nickname the god said. Why Mom, Mr. Odin keeps bothering me. The now Roswis knelt down, while Dahlia pampered her with a smile. Mother and daughter? Asked a curious Azazel. Long story, for now let's talk about the serious topic, said Odin, finishing with a serious expression. As long as Odin stays in Japan, you will be his bodyguard. You will have support from Barakiel. I currently have a lot of work, but I will come from time to time, says Azazel, drinking some tea that Asia brought. The young people had heard Odin's plans. He had been interested in exchanging knowledge and cultures with the Japanese gods, and, depending on how the talk with the Japanese gods goes, he will join the biblical alliance. From now on I will work with you, Barakiel bowed slightly to the group of young people. I came earlier because I have a troublesome boy who doesn't want to follow my orders. That's why I want to meet the Japanese gods as quickly as possible, says Odin seriously and a little tired. I hope you don't start Ragnarok. Old man, Azazel commented amusingly. I hope so too. By the way little Azazel, it seems that the Chaos Brigade is increasing the number of those who can use the balance breaker. Odin changing the subject, something that caught everyone's attention. That's right. It seems that there is someone idiotic enough to send bearers to die so that they can reach balance breaker, Azazel says seriously, and the young people nodded at what was said. A few weeks ago the Gremory group, Citri and Arena, were fighting against humans with sacred gear. A few days ago they had had the last attack and one of them had reached balance breaker. It seems that the hero faction kidnaps people with sacred gear, brainwashes them and sends them to awaken their balance breaker, says Riaz seriously. But what heroes? Is there more information about these supposed heroes? Odin asked interested. According to our source of information, the hero faction are members of the gathering of great legendary heroes. They are humans without a body that can stand up to a supernatural being. They also possess sacred gears and legendary weapons. On top of that, they have reached the balance breaker. They also have 3 longinus that can kill a god. Azazel said the information that Issei gave because of the alliance deal they have in secret. From reports, the hero faction have a strong will not to lay their hands on office's snakes, so in terms of power, their enhancement talent is still unknown. Azazel's term of saying so I would be. Interesting. Did you know about this? Odin looked at Dahlia, who sighed. I wasn't aware of all the information. Issei told me very little regarding that information. She did it to protect me, said Dahlia seriously. I understand. Then can you tell us what you know about the brigade? Dahlia nodded to what Odin said. Do you know what the reason is for increasing the bearers with balance breaker? Riaz asked curiously. We are still investigating the reason. Let's put that aside. Old man. Do you want to go somewhere? Azazel responded and decided to change the subject. Zamop Ibar. Odin was excited by Azazel's question. Haha, of course. My girls opened a club for VIPs, the fallen man said it proudly, drawing sighs of disappointment from the young people and envy from Saji. As expected of the brat Azazel. I want to play some good pairs, says the old pervert as he got up from the couch and walked out with the fallen one. Dahlia and Roswas followed them while sighing. What does Issei-sama think? Ravel asked a brunette that he saw through the train window. Nothing important, the brunette answered as he stretched. If you say so. You know, I was very surprised that you want to return to Japan, commented the blonde to start a conversation. 3 days had passed since the goddess Isanami had visited the chestnut tree. The next day he had remained thoughtful under Revel's curious gaze. Issei decided to take the goddess at her word, and the night before she told Revel that they were going to Japan, her instincts told her that something was going to happen there. Let's take advantage of the fact that the brigade stopped following us to go to a place where they won't bother us, said the brunette absently. But you are still a target for the Alliance's search. I know that you are secretly allied with it, but you have to keep up appearances and not draw attention to yourself, the blonde warned, a little worried. Does the chick worry about me? She said in a funny way. We can't talk to you, Revel pouted and turned his gaze away so that the brunette didn't see his slight blush. Haha. Answering your question, something tells me that I have to be in Japan, call it superstitions or something similar, Issei laughed at the blonde's reaction. I haven't received any message from the higher-ups regarding something happening in Japan. Revel wondered if he had forgotten something, but nothing. Since I've been traveling I always had a feeling that they led me to problematic or profitable situations. It has never failed me, said the brunette, remembering some encounters with his now friends and acquaintances, also some not very good encounters. Could it be your instincts? Something like a so-called subconscious? Revel asked interestedly. It could be. Said the brunette, and the rest of the trip they spent talking calmly. It had already been 4 days since Odin had arrived in Japan. In those days, the Gremory group, Citri and Arena had escorted him to all kinds of places. Some good, like amusement parks, and bad, like brothels and bars, to the shame of the Valkyries and the disappointment of the young women. Now the young people were in the carriage of the 8-legged war horse called Sleipnir, acting as bodyguard of the god Odin, who was heading to the meeting with the Japanese gods. In the car are almost all of the Gremory nobility, Azazel, Dahlia, Roswas and Odin. The Citri entourage had stayed in Kuo so as not to leave the place unprotected. Outside the car are Kiba, Zenobia, Irina and Barakiel acting as escorts. Japanese women are beautiful, said Odin, remembering his experiences so far in Japan. The young people already saw the god's behavior as normal, although Akeno was barely paying attention when she was thinking about Barakiel. Do you think something is wrong? Gasper asked Kaneko, who was eating her cookies calmly while he had his Nico ears alert for any attack. It's wrong to say that in this kind of situation. As he guesses, the carriage stopped quickly and the horse began to scream. Azazel looks out the window of the carriage and sees how Kiba, Zenobia, Irina and Barakiel were on guard. What was missing? Said Azazel reluctantly as he left the carriage being followed by Riaz and Akeno. TCH, this one has to come and bother, Azazel said it reluctantly as he saw a man floating in front of them. Nice to meet you. I am the Norse god of evil, Loki. The now Loki introduced himself. Loki? In this car is the Norse chief god. But you already know that Azazel spoke seriously to the god. Our chief god left our lands to go to other factions. That's nonsense, Loki said, crossing his arms. The nonsense? This is so that the silly fight stop, said the fallen man seriously. Haha, but he is the governor of the fallen angels. I don't like meeting beings like you or demons, but there is no option. You will also receive my punishment, Loki said it in a fun and condescending way. You are very brave to say that, Loki, Azazel said seriously. I don't like peace. You with your damn Bible get into our domains, Loki spoke angrily. Don't complain to me, do it to Michael or the deceased biblical god, Azazel responded nonchalantly. It is a problem that the chief god wants to negotiate with the gods of the east. If he does this, we would be left without our Ragnarok, Loki said displeased, causing Azazel to become more serious. I'll ask you something. Does this have to do with the Chaos Brigade? Wait, I don't think you're the kind of god who answers honestly. Asked the fallen one. Do not associate me with those filthy terrorists. I came of my own free will, office has nothing to do with it, Loki responded. So you are not from the Chaos Brigade. But this is also a problem. Old man, so this is the problem that the northern faction has. Azazel spoke calmer due to the response of the evil god, but he still did not remove his aura of seriousness. Idiot people come out eventually. Odin approached in a magic circle accompanied by Dahlia and Roswas. Lord Loki. You have no authority to interrupt this. You are no one to threaten your boss god, Roswas spoke seriously. Silence, Valkyrie. You are no one to talk to me like that, Loki responded displeased. Odin. Are you still planning to join that stupid alliance? Loki asked. Talking to Surziches and Azazel is much better than talking to you, you insolent brat. I'm thinking about a cultural exchange with the other factions, and you, with your stupid whim, are not going to stop it, responded an annoyed Odin. I see. Odin, we will have a discussion. Saying that, Loki began to release hostile intentions, and enormous pressure began to be felt. I understand this to mean that you want to fight with us, Azazel says seriously. Understand what you want, Kai. Loki did not finish being hit by a massive sacred power. Azazel turns and sees Zenobia with Durandal pointing at Loki. The first hit is what counts, said the Durandal wielder. As expected of a god. He didn't do anything to him, said Azazel, seeing how Loki was intact after the explosion. Holy sword. It has considerable power, but if the wielder is not good at using it for a god, that attack is a breeze. Loki pointed his hand towards Zenobia to fire the attack from him. Quickly, Kiba and Arena stand in front of Zenobia with a holy demonic sword and a light sword. "Heh. Do you think a demon and an angel will do something against a god?" said Loki in a funny way. How about this? Loki was surprised by a joint attack from Riaz and Akeno. The attack impacted Loki, creating a dome of the power of destruction and electricity. The young people observed the attack that was gradually reducing, revealing a shadow. It was a very good attack. I'm not wrong that a lesser being would have perished. But I'm a god, an attack like that won't do anything to me. A large mass of power was shot towards Riaz and Akeno. I won't leave you. Dahlia followed by Roswis had stood in front of the young women, creating a large barrier that managed to stop the attack. They stopped my weakest attack. I must admit that they are high-level Valkyries, said Loki calmly. Now everyone could see him better. His clothes were a little torn by Riaz and Akeno's attack, but no injuries. What a peculiar group you have chosen as your escort, Odin. Loki said again. It's to stop idiots like you, Odin replied seriously. I'll have to call him so they don't interrupt me. Says Loki, extending his arms. Come. My beloved son, shouted the god. There was a moment of silence where everyone was tense about what the god would do. After a few moments, a crack opens, and a howl comes out that terrified everyone. From the gap comes a huge wolf, measuring about 10 meters, gray fur with blue touches, black eyes that did not reflect good feelings, and large claws and fangs. This is Fenrir. My son, Loki introduced the great wolf. Everyone was serious and nervous. Before them was one of the strongest beings in the world. My son. Kill everyone, Loki ordered. Fenrir howled in response and launched himself at Dahlia and Roswis, who were the closest. It was a second. The great wolf was about to catch the older Valkyrie in his jaws, but a red flash hit Fenrir, taking him away from the Valkyrie. What are you doing here, Dahlia? The aforementioned opened her eyes in surprise when she heard a familiar voice. Issei. Said the Valkyrie, surprised that the brunette was in front of her while wearing her armor. You. Sekiryuite, Loki spoke seriously. How lucky I am. In less than a week I will meet 3 gods, said the brunette, preparing for a suicidal fight against Loki and Fenrir, who was grunting from the blow that Issei gave him. Everyone had been surprised to see how the Sekiryuite had appeared on the scene. This is getting interesting. I am in the presence of one of the 2 celestial dragons, the Welsh dragon, said the god Loki calmly. He's not the only one. A new voice was heard, and Vali appears next to Issei with his armor already equipped. It was my entrance. Commented the brunette without taking his eyes off the god or the wolf while he increased his aura. Whatever you say, Vali responded, also increasing his aura. Now everyone was even more surprised. Both celestial dragons had appeared on the scene. Ahahaha, this is magnificent, simply magnificent. Loki laughed openly at the gaze of both celestials. For now I'll settle for seeing both celestials. We're leaving Fenrir, Loki said while disappearing with a wolf. How lucky. I was already preparing for my death. Issei came out of her thoughts when he heard Ravel's voice that came flying with his wings of fire. Well, he carried several suitcases. I had forgotten about her. Issei took off the helmet of her armor, briefly saw how the alliance were doing, and then saw Vali that she had also taken off her helmet. What are you up to? Asked the brunette. Everyone was paying attention to the celestials. I heard that Loki was about to attack, and I didn't want to miss my chance to test myself against a god. What about you? The white-haired man responded calmly and asked. Pure coincidence, Issei shrugged nonchalantly. Issei-sama, why does she always leave me alone? Ravel had finally reached Issei and reproached him. You are very short and I forget that you have a crush on me, Issei defended himself, angering the phoenix. Issei Ravel couldn't continue fighting with the brunette because Dahlia hugged him quickly. Thank you, I thought it was the end of me. Dahlia thanked Issei for saving her before the jealous look of Riaz, Irina, Ravel and the curious look of Roswis. I was surprised when I felt your aura here, that's why I came. And what are you doing here? Issei couldn't finish when he was hugged by the sword. Sekiryuite Naya, the one who had hugged him, was Kuroka, who shamelessly put the brunette's arm between her breasts. It was you. Issei acted indifferent to the Nekomata's act, although inside he was fantasizing about the Nico's assets. What a way to change the aura of the situation. Odin commented, watching as Ravel and Kuroka began a staring battle. I was surprised when they appeared. Said Azazel, looking slightly at how Riaz and Irina went with the brunette. But they will be helpful. Azazel raised his eyebrow at what the god said. Volley will do it for the experience, and I think he planned something. As for Hyoudou Issei, I don't know, said the Fallen One. Rivalry can be used in many ways, brat, said Odin as he went with the Celestials before the curious gaze of the Fallen One. Chapter 23. Start the cap. It was already night in the city of Kuo. In a park there was a large wagon tied to an 8-legged horse, but we did not concentrate on that. Now we saw a group of young people and some adults. I refuse. The one who said that was Hyoudou Issei. Come on, he's just a god with a wolf that's capable of killing us all with a few bites. There's nothing to be afraid of, said a carefree Azazel. I'm crazy, but not crazy enough to go on a suicide mission that has nothing to do with me, the brunette denied again as he began to leave. To inform you, a few hours ago they had repelled the god of evil and deception, Loki, who was accompanied by the wolf called Fenrir. They were repelled by the presence of both celestial dragons, but the god was going to return if Odin continued with his ideas of an alliance. After those events, Azazel asked Issei for support to fight the god, while Odin goes to the meeting with the Japanese gods. Obviously Issei refused. He admitted that he was stupid and impulsive, but he has his limits, and now it is impossible for him to fight with a god without his juggernaut drive or something similar. Are you afraid? Volley asked, stopping Issei's march. I thought the Sekiryuite of this generation was going to be very brave. I guess the Hakuryuku will be enough, said this time Sona, who had arrived with his nobility when the god's attack was over. It's true, we don't need the Sekiryuite, the Hakuryuku is better. Tsubaki followed the king's idea of him. Too bad, I believed in those rumors that you were able to survive the attack of some gods. But they are just that, rumors, said Azazel smiling as he saw how Issei trembled. Scary, declared the white-haired Nekomata. What a shameful carrier you are, Drake. Albion also joined everyone's idea. Issei, until now I haven't asked you for anything, but this situation warrants our intervention. Don't let them do us less against white. Drake shouted at Issei inside her mind. Do they know what is provoking them? Don't fall to idiots. Elsha already knew what the demons, the Fallen One and the Hakuryuku were trying to do. Issei. Dahlia was worried about the brunette's reaction. Issei-sama. Ravel, who was next to the brunette, saw how his eyes shone emerald green. Well, you damn ungrates, that damn Zephilic god will know what I'm capable of, the chestnut-haired man shouted, falling for the provocations. Thank you for your support, said Azazel smiling triumphantly. As expected of my rival. Volley also smiled pleased. The Sekiryuite of this era is brave, Sona nodded with a half-smile as did Tsubaki. Brave, said Kaneko raising her thumb. Damn, Issei hit his forehead for having fallen into the evil plan of the fallen and the demons. Moron. The brunette sighed when he heard Elsha. He was right, he was an idiot. Issei looked at his old house intact. He believed it would still be destroyed and with the crater, but it was completely intact. Is something wrong, Issei-sama? Asked Ravel, who was standing next to the chestnut tree. This must have been Ria's Gremory's work or Irina Shidu's request. The brunette had the same thought as the strongest Sekiryuite of her time. I'll have to thank you for saving me the work. Let's go in, said the brunette, taking his suitcases, followed by Ravel. His original plans were to stay on the outskirts of Kuo, but first he wanted to fix what was her birthplace. Great was his surprise when he saw it intact. Was that mansion always there? Issei was stopped by Dryag's voice. He slowly turned around, and what he saw made him sigh. On second thought, it would be better to go somewhere else, away from that stalker. On the other side of the street from the front of the Hyoudou house, there was a large mansion that occupied half a block. In one of the windows you could see a smiling Ria's Gremory, who saluted when she saw the brunette's gaze on her. Hello. Crimson Stalker with an Otaku complex. Issei greeted the Redeed, who greeted happily from her window with a tense smile. The brunette realized that Ria's didn't know how to read lips. What are you up to? Volley looked up from his book when he heard Issei. It was already the day after Loki's attack. We are currently in the Gremory mansion, specifically in its basement. In the place where the Gremory nobility, Citri, Irina, Azazel, Barakiel, the Hakuryuku team, Volley, Issei and Odin, along with their escorts, who were in another room communicating with their lands. I want to test myself against a god. I think that's enough, the albino responded calmly. I don't believe that, said the brunette, crossing his arms. Believe what you want. The albino said without further ado, changing the page of his book. Issei the aforementioned stopped seeing the albino to see Dahlia, who entered the room. You and I have to talk. But it will be later, if I survive. Said the brunette, and the last thing in a whisper. I have something that will help you against Lord Loki, said the older Valkyrie seriously. You know that I will only use my own strength until the end. Dahlia sighed when she heard what the brunette said. I already know that, it's a plus that will help you in combat, just use it in this fight, said Dahlia calmly. Issei looked at the Valkyrie. She more than anyone knew what he was like. He saw her eyes, and there was concern in them. Okay, I trust you. Issei surrendered to the Valkyrie's gaze and decided to accept outside help. Follow me, said Dahlia, walking to another room under the attentive gaze of the others in the room. The room remained silent after Issei and Dahlia had gone to another room. Why do you want to cooperate with us? The silence was broken by Azazel, who walked towards the albino who was still reading him. As I told Issei, I only want to fight Loki and Fenrir. Biku and the others have already accepted. Does this reason not satisfy you? The albino responded calmly. I am not satisfied. But it is true that we need your help for this fight. We are currently in a situation where each faction cannot send us reinforcements due to the attack of the hero faction. At first I thought about the possibility of that you are in contact with those heroes, but then I remembered your personality and wish you this possibility, said Azazel. Still, we will try not to get too involved with you as much as possible. I am still thinking about fighting Loki and Fenrir, even if you help us, said the albino calmly. Surziches was also thinking a lot about this, but he told me that he won't be able to refuse your offer, since you are the only survivor of the descendants of the ancient demon kings. It is certain that he is a naive demon king, but he also thought that it would be better to have you cooperate with us instead of allowing you to roam freely, Azazel said with a shrug. Even though there are many more points on which we cannot reach an agreement, Riaz whispered. It must be easier to keep them under surveillance instead of leaving them free, added Sona Citri. He's probably up to something. Saji said in a whisper, but everyone heard him. The nose volley just shrugged calmly. I will reserve the right to attack you if you make any suspicious movement, Azazel warned. I have no intention of doing something like that, but if I am attacked, I will not be defeated so easily, Volley responded with a challenging smile. While the rest continued talking about what they would do with Loki and Fenrir, in another room Issei was next to Dahlia. The former was only in her underwear, while Dahlia was drawing something on her left chest. How did they get to that situation? Easy. When they both entered the room, Dahlia explained to the brunette that she had a way to get through Loki's barriers and withstand some of his magical attacks. Issei was curious how the Valkyrie would do that. She explained to him how she would do it, and now the brunette is alone with her underwear while Dahlia did a thing. Will you explain to me again why I'm naked? The brunette asked a little uneasily. It wasn't that he was nervous, it wasn't the first time he was in his underwear in front of the Valkyrie. They had even bathed together due to a situation that involved the luck of the chestnut tree, but the Valkyrie tickled the chestnut tree, and that's why he was restless. I will engrave magical runes on your skin. I know you suck at magic, that's why I will engrave Nordic runes, so that you can damage Lord Loki more effectively. You will also be able to withstand some Nordic magic attacks. Just give them impulses to make them work, replied a concentrated Dahlia as she continued drawing the runes on Issei's body. It's a good idea. Hacker Yuku was also learning Nordic magic. With this they will have more chances against Loki. Elsha gave her approval to Dahlia's idea. Mom? Are you here? Roswis entered the room and was shocked when she saw the situation between the brunette and his mother. This can be misunderstood very easily, said the brunette, and it didn't help that Dahlia was just drawing the runes on the area of his thighs. What? What? Roswis was like a tomato and didn't know what to say. Oh. Ross, you're just in time. I need your help with this to finish faster. Dahlia looked out to see her daughter calmly, but she was confused when she saw her stutter. Ma.mom, what are you doing? Roswis shouted. I'm sorry, I jumped to conclusions. Dahlia had already explained to her daughter what she was doing with the brunette and she understood the idea quickly. How perverted you came out to me, Dahlia joked. Mama Roswis turned red again at what the older Valkyrie said. I'm glad they get along, but it's uncomfortable to be in this position for so long. Issei was happy to see the relationship between mother and daughter, but her arms were getting tired from being still for so long. Sorry, come on daughter, let's give Issei the right weapons, said Dahlia smiling at her daughter. But Roswis got nervous when she saw the brunette's well-worked body. It was the first time she had seen one. Oh, calm down, just stay calm, the older Valkyrie said nonchalantly as she continued drawing more runes on the brunette's body. Roswis swallowed and walked slowly towards the chestnut tree. Hello. Nice to meet you. Dahlia told me a lot about you, although it was not in my plans to meet formally in this situation, haha, said the brunette when Roswis stood in front of him. And nice. Thank you for taking care of my mother, said Roswis slowly as she took a brush and proceeded to draw on the chestnut's chest slowly. She is a good woman and she was the one who took care of me most of the time. In fact, I owe her my life, the brunette answered calmly, although internally he was nervous and trying to keep his inseparable friend from getting up and not talking about Dreg. I hope to hear that story at some point, said Roswis, looking in more detail at the chestnut's chest. It had some burn marks and cuts, but what caught her attention was a scar right where the chestnut's heart is. How did you get it? Said a curious Roswis, slowly touching the scar, tensing the brunette a little. I was pierced by the Spear of Destiny, said the brunette slowly, surprising the younger Valkyrie. Spear of Destiny. The true Longinus, the spear that pierced Jesus from the Bible. Roswis asked in surprise. Yes. Answered the brunette, a little melancholy. How did you survive? I understand that it is a weapon that kills gods, asked a curious Roswis, but she fell when she saw Issei's melancholy expression. Ross, you can ask him later, now concentrate on finishing the runes to return to the others, said Dahlia, knowing that it was a delicate topic for the brunette. I am sorry. Ross withdrew the runes again. Don't worry. If I survive Loki I will tell you how I am alive, said a calm Issei. Are you sure? I don't want to make you uncomfortable, said a shy Roswis. No problem, obviously you have to give me something in return, said the brunette while Dahlia smiled when she heard the conversation. Something? Like? Asked a curious Roswis. I'm very curious about Asgardian food, until now I only ate wild boar. Great variety of these dishes, but I want to try different types of food, said Issei, making Dahlia blush. I'm not very good at cooking. But I'll do my best if you also tell me how you and my mother met, said Roswis, making the brunette smile. I take you at your word, Issei accepted and let both Valkyries continue with their work. Issei. Dahlia looked at the brunette with an amused expression with a small blush on her cheeks. Yes? Asked the brunette, curious by the older Valkyrie's gaze. Are you excited? Issei was confused by the question, but then he saw Roswis that she was red looking at a certain part of her, and he understood. I am sorry, don't get me wrong, but put yourself in my position, quickly hidden from Issei Jr. Well, Dahlia smiled and Roswis didn't know what to do. That's what happens to you when you think about other things. Dryag and the other bearers were laughing hard at the chestnut situation. How lucky I am. Asgardian runic connections were created. It was what Issei had heard in his head after Dahlia and Roswis finished putting the runes. 30 minutes had already passed since Dahlia and Roswis had finished placing the runes, they only needed to configure them to activate when Issei needed them, but, without Issei wanting them, the boosted gear materialized and more runes appeared and connected. With which Issei had and Sia had spoken, this confused Roswis, who did not know the artificial intelligence inside the boosted gear, after an explanation from Dahlia, because Issei was gone because Sia was explaining something to him, she explained. Everything related to artificial intelligence. Completely assimilated runes, only the user's request is needed to use them. Issei sighed when he heard Sia's voice, she had explained to him that the boosted gear had the ability to work with magic or all types of support energy, in this case, it was the runes that served to give power and defense against Nordic magic. It's incredible. And to think that no one knew about this, Roswis was surprised by Sia. Although I almost never understand what he's talking about, said the brunette, shrugging his shoulders. Issei, Azazel needs your presence. Someone entered the room without having called before, it was Riaz who was shocked to see the still naked Issei. I'll be there in a moment, said the brunette with a poker face. I know what you're thinking, but you don't believe it, a redheaded Roswis tried to clarify what was obviously wrong, thinking the redhead that she started blinking and then pouted. Luo, I wanted to, the Valkyrie duo and the half-human hit their foreheads upon hearing the demon's claim. It's not what you think, Riaz. The brunette began to get dressed before the shameless sight of Riaz, who was eating him with her eyes. It would be better to go with Mr. Odin. Roswis decided to leave so as not to see the brunette's body, although that would have helped before she touched everything. I'll wait for you outside, Issei. Dahlia followed her daughter, leaving the brunette and the redhead alone. What's wrong, Riaz? Issei asked as he put on his shirt. I'm glad you came, he said slowly. It was pure coincidence, I came to confirm something, when I arrived I felt their auras, I went to see, and you already know the rest. The brunette shrugged it off as he put on his combat boots without looking at the redhead who was slowly approaching. I'm really glad you're back. Riaz suddenly hugged the brunette who had gone still when he felt the contact. We will go against a god. I feel like something bad will happen and I'm afraid, said Riaz slowly as he hugged the brunette closer. Bad things always happen, especially if you're close to me, said the brunette trying to separate himself from the redhead, but she hugged him harder. Just a moment. Leave me here for a moment please, said Riaz, putting her head on the chestnut's chest and at the same time listening to his heartbeat. How warm. It was Riaz's thought when she heard Issei's heartbeat that he let the redhead do what he wanted, just because he also believed that something would happen in the confrontation. Don't think negatively, if you do something really bad can happen. Always positive. You will not fight alone, we will help you in everything, and also, even if I don't like it, White will help. Thanks guys. Riaz. Azazel sensei will tell the plan. Both young people heard Sona's voice from the other side of the door. I'm coming, Riaz shouted, angry that her moment with the brunette was interrupted. Come on, let's see what that weak guy has, so we can do something against that Zephilic god. Issei freed himself from Riaz's embrace, took his jacket and began to go towards the door. No matter what happens. Promise me you won't die, said Riaz, stopping the brunette. Sooner or later people come to an end, said the brunette simply. Please. Issei saw the redhead who had a look of real concern. I won't let myself be killed so easily, focus on yours and never let your guard down, don't waste my teachings. With that said, the brunette left the room leaving a smiling but still worried Riaz. Will Midgard Sir Marili answer our call? Vali asked Azazel. We are going to open the dragon gate with the 2 celestial dragons, plus the powers of the dragon kings Fafnir, Vritra and Tannen will help us. We will only call upon the consciousness of Midgardsormr. His real body is sleeping in the depths of the ocean in the north of Europe, in Scandinavia, Azazel answered. Am I included too? The truth is that I feel pressured since I'm weak and everyone else is a monster, Saji asks timidly. Well, you're going to have to come as one of the necessary factors. Along with me and the 2 heavenly dragons. Wait until I contact Tannen. I'll go talk to Shemhazai about the measure against this. You guys stay. Waiting until I return. Barakiel, follow me, said the fallen one. Azazel and Barakiel left the room. In the room there were only the Gremory nobility, Citri, Vali's team, Irina and aboard Issei. Hey Princess Gremory, the one who broke the silence of the room was Biku, who approached Riaz. What's wrong? The Redeed asked calmly. Can I use the pool? Asked the monkey. As long as you don't make a mess, you can use it, the Redeed responded with a sigh, and without further ado, the monkey left happily. Are you sure? Sona asked about the Redeed's decision. We are going on an almost suicidal mission, maybe he will be lucky and someone will kill him. Riaz spoke darkly. Issei only observed the people in the entire room. Irina was talking to Arthur. He assumed that it was about swords. Hyoudou and Zenobia were paying attention to the conversation without letting their guard down. Vali was still with his book in a corner. The Citri nobility were talking among themselves without letting their guard down. Hiroka looked at Kaneko funny and the transvestite hid behind the white-haired girl. Excuse me. Issei stopped looking at those present because someone called him. It was that nun, Asia Argento, if she remembered correctly. What's happening? Asked the brunette. Thank you very much for saving me, the nun said timidly. Ah, that. You don't have to thank me, you have to thank Arthur, he was the one who brought you. Issei pointed to the blonde swordsman. Oh. But still thank you for helping us today, said the blonde with a slight bow, and then went towards Arthur. Issei looked at Lost Present again. In the corner of the room was Akeno with a look of doubt in her eyes. Suzaku is right, her cousin, although she has accepted her power, she still does not accept herself, nor her father. She thought the brunette as she remembered the talk she had with the heiress Himejima. That closer to her, because I have nothing to do with her. If you can help her, you will be able to pay the debt to the heiress Himejima. Issei thought carefully about what Elsha said. If she could settle the debt with Suzaku. In the boosted gear all the men in Dryag were trapped by the women so that they would not tell the chestnut about the trap that Elsha prepared. But I'm not the type to fix problems. Just walk up and talk like you always do. The brunette hesitated because of what Elsha told him. He is good with words, and if she gets desperate she may say things very directly. Just be yourself. There he doubted more, if he were the same things could happen that he didn't want. Sissy. Issei's eyes trembled upon hearing that. I'm not a faggot. I'm just cautious. Sissy. Issei sighed angrily and went towards the Himejima. Inside the boosted gear, Elsha and the others smiled devilishly, scaring the men. Hello. Nice day, isn't it? Issei greeted the Himejima who looked at him seriously. It's cloudy, the black-haired woman responded sharply. Issei gave himself a mental blow. It had been a while since he started a conversation with a woman he didn't know. He lost practice. Well. Do you know that we are going to an almost suicidal confrontation? He tried the chestnut again. I know, I hope they give you some good hits, the black-haired woman answered simply. How hard? He thought the brunette upon hearing Akeno's response. When I was little I liked to go fishing with my father. The brunette began to say, gaining a bit of Akeno's attention. I was very happy then. One day we went to a lake on the outskirts of Kuo to fish. My mother had prepared food for a picnic. It was a sunny day. I remember that I had forgotten my rod at home and my father lent me his. I knew it was his favorite. I took care of it the best he could. When a fish had gotten hooked on the hook, I pulled so hard that the rod slipped from my hands and fell into the lake. Issei remembered those days when he still didn't know anything about the supernatural. I went with my father. I was very sad for having lost my father's cane, but he just smiled slowly and said that it didn't matter. The good thing is that I was fine. I spent a few weeks sad for having lost the cane. I didn't want to do anything and I didn't eat either. Now I think about it, I was very sentimental at that time. I still am. One day my mother raised her voice at me a little because I didn't want to eat, but think I got very angry with her and I told her something that I still regret. Issei closed his eyes as he continued remembering. What? What did you say to him? Akeno asked slowly. I told them that it would be better if they hadn't had me like this, so they wouldn't bother getting angry with me. It was a childish response, but for my mother it was a very hard blow. I didn't know all the effort my parents made to have me. My father, she told me while my mother was crying in her room. When she heard the story from me, I immediately went to my mother's room and hugged her while asking for forgiveness over and over again. My mother hugged me saying not to worry. But I still kept asking for forgiveness. She hugged me tightly saying words to calm me down. My father joined me in the hug and also told me words to calm me down. I thought they would be angry with me for the whims I did, but they simply told me that it was impossible for them to get angry with me because I was their greatest achievement and miracle. From that day on I did everything possible to behave well, and I never got angry with my parents again, always trying to do my best in everything I do so that they feel proud of me. Although now. Issei opened his eyes melancholy remembering the last events he experienced with his parents and then separating from them. Why are you telling me all this? Akeno asked, pulling the brunette out of his thoughts. That they will continue to love and forgive us as long as we don't, after all those are the real parents, the brunette responded calmly. Akeno was silent when she heard that, those words hit her hard. I know your story, I understand your resentment, but put yourself in your father's shoes without further ado. The brunette walked away, leaving the black-haired girl thoughtful. Well done Issei. Safe? I just said the first thing that came to mind. She was thinking about what you said, it must have been useful to her. A few minutes passed since the brunette spoke with the black-haired woman. At that moment Azazel returned, the Fallen One asked the two Celestials and Saji to transport themselves with him to the place to call Midgardsormr. Now they were in a large blank space that seemed to have no end, a great being was waiting there, a dragon. I haven't seen both Celestials in a while, but if we add that they are not fighting. Spoke the great being. It's been a while Tannen. The boosted gear made its appearance, and Dryag greeted the now Tannen. It's true Dryag, it's been a long time said Tannen, and then went to see Vali. Hakuryuaku. If you do something suspicious I will not hesitate to tear you to pieces, Tannen warned, making Vali sober slightly. After giving his warning, the great dragon watched as Saji trembled like jelly. You are the bearer of the Vritra fragment. Tannen looked curiously at the demon who could barely breathe. Relax, he won't eat you or something. I think so Issei said and whispered at the end. Sekuryuite. I have a question, a few years ago someone entered my territory and stole some apples, I hope you have nothing to do with that Issei tensed slightly when he heard the dragon. I'm innocent, Issei defended himself against Drake's internal laughter and Tannen's poker look, who only sighed and looked at the fallen man who was drawing a large magic circle. Is that guy really coming? Even I only saw him like 2 or 3 times at most, Tannen said a little doubtfully. If the 2 heavenly dragons are here, then he will have to respond whether he wants to or not, said Azazel still drawing the circle. Is he a difficult dragon? I heard things about him, but I never got to see him Issei asked. That guy basically never moves. He's one of the creatures that will only move when Ragnarok approaches. He's just sleeping until his role begins. He surfaced a few times, but even then he continued to sleep. Several hundred years ago, he declared that he would continue sleeping until Ragnarok Tannen replied. All active dragons are strange. So far the only normal medium and Tannen that I just met. You know, you shouldn't have high expectations. The chestnut Dryag agreed. The base of the magic circle has been completed. Now, let everyone stand in the indicated place Azazel called everyone's attention having finished the circle. Everyone positioned themselves in their respective circles that were differentiated by the marks that represent the dragons. Azazel confirmed that everyone was in position and activated the magic circle. The circle began to light up, each circle where everyone was standing began to glow different colors, red for Issei, white for Vali, gold for Azazel, black for Saji and purple for Tannen. There were 2 other circles that glowed blue and another green, these represented the other 2 missing dragon kings. There was a moment of silence where everyone waited for something to happen. Half a minute later, a large projection began to form. Wow. Said the brunette as he saw how a large spectral dragon began to take over the entire space of the place. He was an oriental dragon, he has a large head and an entire elongated body that seemed to occupy all the space. It's the biggest dragon there is, it's 4 or 5 times bigger than Great Red commented Tannen. A loud snore was heard from the great dragon that made Tannen sigh. Wake up Midgardsormr said Tannen, and the great dragon began to slowly open his eyes. I feel a nostalgic impulse for a dragon. Ah said the great dragon sleepily. Oh, Tannen. It's been a while, Midgardsormr said again in a relaxed manner. Even Drake and Albion are here. Also Fafnir and Vritra. Is it Ragnarok? Midgardsormr asked curiously. No, it is not. We have come here today because there are things we want to know, so we brought your consciousness to this place answered Tannen, but Midgardsormr went back to sleep. Don't fall asleep damn, you long haven't fixed your lazy attitude, that's why I can't stand you, Tannen shouted as Midgardsormr opened his eyes again. You're always angry, Tannen. So, what is it you want to ask me? Said Midgardsormr. I want to ask you about your brother and your father after a sigh, Tannen asked. So it's about little dog and daddy. Okay. Daddy and little dog are beings that I don't care about anyway. Ah, but Tannen. Tell me something said Midgardsormr. What's wrong? Tannen asked. Drake and Albion stopped fighting. Midgardsormr asked curiously, looking at Vali and Issei. From what I understand, now both of them will join together to fight against Loki and Fenrir, then I don't know about their relationship, Tannen responded, also looking at both Celestials. I have other objectives, for now I will leave our fight for the future, said Vali calmly. Likewise Issei thought the same as Vali regarding their fight. Interesting. I was wondering about it because they are both together without fighting, Midgardsormr commented curiously, but then returned to Tannen. Dog is more troublesome than dad. You would die if you were bitten by doggy. But he has a weakness, the magic of the Gleipnir chain created by the dwarves, with that you can capture him. You can seal his movements with that, Midgardsormr responded to the Tannen asks. We've already checked that. But from the reports from the north, the Gleipnir didn't work. That's why I thought about getting another method from you, said Azazel. Maybe dad improved little dog. If that's the case, then ask the dark elves who live in the safe land of the Nordic world. If I remember correctly, their elder knows a technique to raise the magic that resides within the elements of the dwarves. I can transmit the location of the place where the old man lives to the sacred gears of Dragon Albion, Midgardsormr thought for a moment and then gave them another solution. Send the information to Hacker Yuiku. No offense, Seker Yuite, but I don't know your capabilities in this situation, Azazel said, smiling slightly. They underestimate my prestigious intelligence. What you say? Dryag sighed at what the bearer thought of him. Midgardsormr sent the information to Vali. I have his locations. Azazel, activate the world map with holographic vision, Vali said. Azazel opened his mobile phone and used it. A holographic image of the world map appeared on the screen. Vali pointed to a certain place and Azazel sent the information to his contacts. You actually know a lot, Tannen said to Midgardsormr in a surprised way. When I went to Earth, the elves and the dwarves took care of me, the great dragon answered calmly. And Loki? Asked the brunette. As for dad. They would be fine if you used Mjolnir against him, Midgardsormr responded. Azazel made a thoughtful expression. Basically we have to attack him, huh? The god of thunder, Thor will lend us Mjolnir from him. Azazel thought out loud. I doubt Thor will lend us his hammer. That is one of the only weapons the gods can use, said Vali calmly. If that's the case, then ask the dwarves and dark elves I mentioned before. They should have received the replica of Odin's Mjolnir, said Midgardsormr. You saved us thanks to your knowledge, Midgardsormr. Azazel grateful to the great dragon who only let out a yawn. You're welcome. Talking like this is sometimes fun. So now I'll go to sleep again, said Midgardsormr as he began to disappear. Thank you for your help, said Tannen, making Midgardsormr smile. Okay. Wake me up again if something happens. After saying that, Midgardsormr disappeared from the place. With information from one of the Dragon Kings, he began to prepare the plan to confront Loki and Fenrir. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.